want things. I
Yeah,
want experiences.
me too. Me
You know what I
too.
mean? That's
Absolutely.
what I want out of
Yeah.
life. You
Yeah.
just can't take it with you.
Nope.
We're not here for a long time, but we're here for a good time,
Yep. Yep.
right?
For those of you watching, Mike Trout, really appreciate you coming in, man. I look at the bios on everybody, and the people that I have in have some amazing bios. We had Jonathan Ivey, one of the world, held the world record for professional fights, leg lock monster. He actually fought for me at one of my shows. And then, I've had several people just really good bios, but none of them as diverse as what you got going on, dude. You've got
It's a
a
great word,
you've got a
diverse.
hell of a movie. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And
Yeah.
you didn't really get into any of that, and I'm glad, because we can do that now, and I
Sure.
kinda can learn it as we go.
Yeah.
Um, I relate a little bit to that. I've done a lot of different things too,
Yeah.
and, been through the ringer and back, and probably gonna go through it again,
Yeah.
So that was, yeah, and then everybody my youngest son, I remarried, got a younger wife, so it was, here we go, we gotta have another kid.
Right.
So I've got an 8-year-old, and I got an 18-year-old and a 25-year-old. My
Congratulations.
Thank you, I appreciate
Yeah.
that, yeah. I like being a dad, yeah, I enjoy even my 8-year-old. I don't know that I can do it again. I'm getting too old, but, we have a great time, and it's different with him, with Tristan, when he was younger, it was a completely different, situation. With Enoch, it's, I don't know, maybe I got the experience, maybe I'll get it right this time, maybe Tristan, so
I think to your point, when you get a little older, and I'm experienced this as a young grandfather. I mean,
yeah.
I think you and I are pretty close to the same
Yeah, I think
age.
about a year or 2 off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so with my grandkids, I'm learning I have more patience and a little more time to spend with them.
yeah,
Whereas when my daughters were young, I was trying to conquer the world every day.
sure.
And I still am to some extent, but I understand the fragility of life right now. I
Yeah,
mean, I'm kind of in my fourth quarter, right? I feel like I am. I feel like I got plenty of time left, but I feel like, I've got some stuff figured out. And anyway, so that I think transcends to how I deal with children today versus how I did back then. So maybe
sure.
that's part of it. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, for me right now, I'm trying to just kinda finalize some things and get that little bit of freedom,
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
pushing, pushing, pushing. I'm getting close,
Yeah.
but, Enoch, my youngest son, I've never met somebody who fishes more than him.
Okay.
He is on the lake with his grandpa almost every weekend.
Right.
That's all he wants to do. If he's got a game and you say fishing, he's gone. I mean, he don't and, he does his own little podcast talking about bait and stuff like that. Me and him, we haven't really done a lot with it yet, but,
Very cool.
I showed him that picture you sent me with you
The
holding the
fish.
fish
Yeah.
up, yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh my god."
Yeah.
He woulda came today if I didn't have to get up so early
Yeah.
because I had to go to my other shop, but he
Yeah.
woulda loved him that, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you a story about that fish whenever we get to it, but, that was one of 3 that size that day,
Jeez,
and it was
man.
a monster day,
It was a
monster day.
monster fish,
Yep.
yeah. So I kinda wanted to start back and, just kinda get an idea of where you came from.
Yeah,
I don't know if you said you lived in a couple different locations.
yeah,
I don't have a lot of information on any of that about you. Just for the viewers, we're kind of acquaintances through a poker friend,
yeah,
and I
that's right.
consider you a friend
Yeah, absolutely.
because you helped me out one time,
Yep,
big
yep,
time, a
yep,
big help,
yep.
and I appreciate that. And
Yeah, no worries.
yeah, so yeah, I'd like to kind of get the background. I know you had said you had maybe a single mom kind of starting out.
I did. My mother, she had gotten married 4 times, so she was a single mother multiple times, and I was the oldest of 4 children. She had 3 children with, her second husband, which was my stepfather. She had gotten married a couple times past that, but they were all military men, so I grew up on military installations. And that, every 3 years, we had a new place to live. Um, so I think very early on, it allowed me to figure out how to be pliable, how to kind of reinvent myself when I needed to be, how to be very comfortable being uncomfortable,
Right.
and kind of having that strength has helped me through my life. But so we moved around. I lived in Alaska. We lived in kind of all over the country, and we ended up in my early preteen years, 10, 11 years old, I guess, 12, we ended up in Fort Knox, Kentucky,
Mhm.
just south of Louisville, Kentucky. So I grew up there for a while, and went to a high school, North Hardin High School. Um, and then we kind of talked. I had a tragedy hit when I was a sophomore in high school.
Yeah, I heard
Yeah,
about that. Or I was reading that, and that's not that's not a common thing to hear, that big of a tragedy, and I hate to hear that for you. I hate
yeah,
to. Sorry, I know it's been a long time ago, but
yeah,
still something that huge.
yeah,
If you want to get into that a little
yeah.
bit,
No,
yeah,
absolutely.
uh,
I share this story, from time to time, and there's some documentaries. It's well documented story. So in May of 1988, my youth group, with my girlfriend, was going on a trip to a place called Kings Island, which is up outside of Cincinnati. It's a fun park. It's got roller coasters and all the fun things you want to do when you're freshman, sophomore in high school.
yeah,
And so a big group of my friends, my girlfriend, and everything was going. Unfortunately, I had my very first job, and that job would not allow me to get out of work that day. So I was upset about that. And you got to remember, this is before the internet, cell phones. No, I mean, people had cell phones, but they weren't like they are today. So this was a long time ago. Um, so anyway, I get woken up, and this was on Saturday. I think I go to the movies that night, just kind of locally after work or whatever, and everything's kind of a normal night. The very next day, we get up. And the news is on, and that's how you found out about stuff.
yeah,
Or friends would call you on a landline, and there's all this chatter. There's a bus wreck. Come to find out, it was a drunk driver, Larry Mahoney, hit my youth group's bus head on their way back, on their way home. And the wreck didn't kill anybody. It was the fire, the way the bus was designed, and um, I don't want to go, too deep into the weeds here, but the bus was designed where the gas tank was on the front driver's side of the bus. Well, if you get a head-on collision, that's pretty much where another
bad
vehicle's going to
spot, yeah,
hit you. And so Ford made a design mistake, and the fire killed 27 people that night. And as a sophomore, I pallbeared 5 funerals in a week, um, including my girlfriend's, Mary. And so it was kind of one of those moments. Introspection. I was mad at God for letting it happen. I was mad at, the guy that did it. I was mad at a lot of things. When you're that age, you're not mature enough to really understand your anger and how to kind of, project it out. And so anyway, so it changed me in a lot of ways. And in our class, funny enough, so our group of people that didn't go and it kind of had the aftermath, um, there's some very highly successful people in that group.
mm,
And it's kind of bittersweet. You'd want your classmates and your girlfriend and your friends to kind of come along with you, but if that wouldn't happen, maybe they wouldn't have been as successful. Who knows,
it's hard to
right?
say, yeah, yeah,
So yeah, so that's what happened, and that was kind of my first big piece of adversity in my life. I think right at 14 years old, 15 years
14,
old.
14,
So
15. When I read that, it brought back a show that I was watching where it was during 9/11, and the person who was in the show, he had a business inside one of the towers. And he was running late that morning,
yep,
and something to do with his kids or something, and it all happened, and he lost all. And it was like a best friend kind of thing. He had his best friend, the CEO, and all the they were all there, and he lost everybody. And then now this part, of course, is not quite what you're, but you did kind of say something about how everyone kind of becomes successful. Maybe it kind of had you guys grow up a little faster than what you normally would have. But in this situation, it changed his business. He made him successful. So now he had all this success from losing, and he had to deal with that.
yeah,
That's got to be a hard thing to
yeah.
deal with.
There's a little bit. I think that's a good point. I think there's a little bit of guilt with it. Um, you know, but I think at the end of the day, if you look at it like God bless me, save me, I've got to do something with this chance, right?
Right.
You're just a granule of sand and time. I know that sounds like a
I
very
say it all the time.
weird thing, but you're just a fleeting moment in this world. I mean, there's people before you, there's people after you. So you got to do the best you can with what you have. Be the best human you can possibly be. Don't get taken advantage of. You know, there's an old saying, look out for number one and don't step in number two. It's kind of
Mm,
funny. But you just do the best you can with the hand you're dealt, and you try to manufacture situations to put you in the best position you can going forward.
right.
I've recently got, I've got a couple tattoos. I recently got this is the date and
I
time
noticed that one,
that
yeah.
they passed. So it's, every May I celebrate their life. I've got still some very close friends that are in that group that celebrate them with me, and yeah, we remember them and go on and celebrate them throughout the rest of the year by doing the right thing, by being successful when we can, and by giving other people the opportunity to be successful.
Right.
So
So after that, you had a lot to deal with there, and
I did.
you had a stepfather, I guess, at the time. Were you guys close?
I did. No, not really. I was never really close to my stepfather. I think at that point, if I got to think back, she was on marriage three.
Mm,
Um, so there were men in and out of my life. I didn't really have a father figure to kind of tell me. It was my mom and me and brothers and sisters, and several of them kind of spread out and went with their father, and so we were just kind of a disjointed family for a long time, if you want to call it that. I grew up very, very poor.
mm,
Trailer park. There were times. I remember one Christmas, me and mom um, were in government housing, and we have not to paint too bleak of a picture, but it's a true story. So we have, she did the best she could with me, for me. She worked at night, went to school during the day. She really tried to provide for me the best she could, but there just wasn't much there. And we've got yard furniture, the fold up yard
yeah,
furniture
right.
in our living room. That's what we had. Little black and white TV, and you're eating cream of corn over bread, and that was your dinner, and be thankful for that.
Yeah,
So it wasn't, a lot of people had a stable childhood. I didn't have that. Okay, fine. Everybody's got a story, right?
yeah, right,
Just get past it and
sure,
do the best you can going forward. So,
right. Well, I heard a little bit about that in your bio, and that I mean, I again had a connection there. I grew up extremely poor.
right,
My mom was a drug addict, alcoholic, and I'm not going to get into my story. I tell enough of it throughout all the podcasts, but and we moved. When I moved into the house I live in now, it was I counted just 40 sometimes, and people don't understand stuff like that.
right.
So, but what I was thinking about when you were talking about going through this at such a young age, did you have anybody to help out with that? You said you were having some issues. How
Yeah,
you direct your anger,
yeah,
and I mean, you couldn't experience that and not have some anger. I think even at our age,
yeah,
if something we'd
right.
have some anger, maybe we'd be able to handle it differently.
I think at that point I didn't have a lot of people that I trusted, so I didn't have a whole lot of people that I could talk to. I think if I'm really being honest and looking back, what I learned is a very great skill at that point as I turn inward. And everything I did, I became super highly focused, hyper focused on. I played baseball. I really I played basketball. I did sports, football, diving, swimming, anything I could do to take up my time. I would get really good at it very quickly. Then I might move on to the next thing.
Mhm.
So it really early on was a pattern in my life. I think that I would become hyper focused on something I was interested in, and if I became disinterested, I would get really good at it, and I'd set it aside and go to something else.
Yeah,
And that kind of shaped how I do. I went to market and I've become kind of a serial entrepreneur. Where I'm always looking for the next thing. I've got a couple of stable things that I absolutely love that I've poured my heart and soul in. Like my current business, Window World, I've
yeah,
just poured everything into it. But that early on, I think is kind of I developed a pattern of becoming hyper focused, getting really good at different things, and reading and learning as much as I can about it, and then going on to the next thing. So,
right.
yeah,
So I got a little bit of a confession here. I may have tricked you just a little bit because
all right,
this is a podcast, but actually I brought you in because I know you and I know what you've accomplished.
right,
I've done a lot too, not necessarily to the level you have, and a lot of people will look at me and what I have and maybe think I'm in a different place than I am. Not we're nowhere near. So more of this is going to. I'm actually kind of going to get some of your trade secrets here. That's what I'm
I
looking for.
got you.
And it's
Yeah,
more of a training seminar for me here because it seems like we have a lot of similarities. Um, except for that very most important one is that for me, just real quickly, I've always been successful in the way I consider success. So if you come to my restaurant and you sit down and you eat my steak and you're like, dude, that was the best steak I've ever had. That triggers success in my head. I
right,
did it. And I don't care what it took for me to make that happen.
right,
I did it even if I lost money on the stake. And so I've been trying to change that mentality
Right.
because, I build $150,000 cars,
Sure you do. Yeah.
and it can be very easy to go the wrong direction with something
Mhm.
like that, you know.
Mhm.
So I have to at some point look at success not only as what I accomplished, what I'm doing, but am
Right.
I making good profits too?
That's the secret of sauce, isn't it?
Yes,
It's
sir.
not easy to do. When you become passionate about whatever, it's easy to lose money because you pour everything in it, and you want to give the customer the best experience, that you could possibly give them. I think where I kind of, and we're jumping way ahead on the story, but kind of my philosophy as I matured was there's a fine line between profitability, quantity, and quality, and you have to find the right mix.
Yeah.
I want to do it as many as I can, as best as I can, but I have to make a profit to stay open. And the profit doesn't have to be huge. I mean, it could be 6%, 4%, 3%, whatever keeps your doors open. But you've got to find that metric that secret sauce, if you will.
Right.
And it's not easy to do. It's really not.
So yeah, very tough.
Yeah.
And sometimes I even want to do but more than what my client even wants. My
Yes.
situation. Of
Right.
course, I'm building cars, and another issue that I have is in my situation. So if you're selling apples, and I've said this before, if you're selling apples, somebody comes to you and says, "Jim, your apples we're losing money on apples, and we'll raise the price." Well, the next day you're in profit again.
Right.
With me, I got year and a half long projects,
Yeah.
and it's harder to do that with. But
Yeah.
so
Yeah, a
let's
lot of unforeseen, a lot of I would imagine in your business, and I don't pretend to know much about it, but there's a lot of unforeseen costs associated with
yeah,
year and a half long project. So
right,
that's tricky.
and you find stuff that no matter how many times you tell a client this is an estimate and we don't
Yeah.
know what we're gonna find, they
Right.
still, well, you said,
Yeah.
another. So let's go back.
Yep.
After that, and you went through school. So again, what was the next step? I mean, you went through school. Did you go to college or
So
got into work?
so the plan was to go to college. That's what I wanted to do. And so I went as a junior in high school. I went into the military in a split training program. Went to basic training the summer of my junior year in high school. That's all I ever knew. I was around military bases. People in my life were in the military, so I went in thinking, I'm going to get a GI Bill. I'm going to go to college. This is my only chance to go to college. I'm probably not going to be good enough at sports to necessarily. I was big enough, but I didn't. I don't know. I didn't have the inner focus at that time to have that mentor that pushed me. So that was my path, I thought. And so I went in, basic training, got a rude awakening and
Hmm.
how to be a man and what that looked like, how to be disciplined daily and how to, embrace the suck, so to speak, of of
Yeah.
of the military. And so anyway, so I went and it was a split training program. I was going to go back the next summer to take what's called AIT, but it's basically your training for your job that you're going to do with the military. And over that summer, um, that next summer, I kind of fell in love with music. Kind of again went off on another path and um, didn't quite make it through the military like I thought I would. I
Yeah.
took off. At that time, the grunge scene came up.
Mhm.
Um, so this was the early '90s. Um, there wasn't a lot of wars going on. I mean, there was something matriculating in the Middle East, but not really a whole lot
Yeah.
going on at that point. Um, so yeah, I followed a girl out to Seattle and ended up following a band that was called Pearl Jam at the time.
Wow. Yeah.
That around dug their music, and I don't know, we just kind of lived there for a year.
Yeah. That's
So
cool. Those were
yeah,
great. I love the '90s,
mm,
and that was one of my favorite eras there. But so then the next thing,
yeah,
did you ever have like a mentor that you kind of took you under the wing and said, "All right, this is how you're gonna make." You know, I never have. I've had some
mm-mm,
amazing people that I've worked
right,
for, but never really a mentor going the direction I wanted to go. And to be honest, it feels like over the years I've made a lot of people a lot of money. It's
right,
not as much as me.
sure,
So I try to keep that in mind.
yeah.
But did you ever have
I
somebody like that?
th- I think through my life, I've had people show me what not to do more than they've showed me what to do. I
Yeah,
think that would be a fair statement. I paid attention to people, how they treated people, and was like, man, that's not how I wanted,
yeah,
to deal with. I wouldn't have dealt with it that way. And so I think I've learned by the trial by fire more than anything, especially in business. You know, I think there's certain traits that make you successful in life. Um, and you've got to be being humble is one of them, right? Being able to look in the mirror, and going, that wasn't my best. I got to do
Right.
better. That's a big, piece of the puzzle. I think about things like, being empathetic, putting yourself in that person's shoes, and understanding whoever you're talking to at any given point, where they're at and what they've got going on, is a big part of it. And then, you know, again, one of my traits is being comfortable being uncomfortable. I think that's a key to success. So there's several little traits I think that I've learned along the way on my own. Um, some of them, those lessons were harder than others.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've lost a lot of money learning those lessons. I've lost and built multiple businesses over and over again, um, by not doing the right thing, and sometimes by doing the right thing, it just didn't pan out.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was the early '90s, and then I had my first daughter. Had a summer fling that turned into a long-term situationship, is what the kids call it now, right?
Yeah.
With my daughter, and I had to go to work. I had to get serious, right? I have a
Yes.
kid. I have somebody that I have to take care of now. And during that time, I was cooking a lot at night, and I loved cooking, and I was training to be a sous chef at the time with a nice restaurant, because I was no longer going to the army. Army was done for me. I had missed out on my opportunity. I kind of blew it off
Yeah.
in the worst kind of possible way. So I had to get a gig, and cooking was it. And then we had our first child, and we weren't married, and was scared and didn't know what to do. Just probably like a lot of young fathers out there. And so I would do construction during the day, and I would cook at night.
Yeah.
And it was trying to make ends meet. And quickly found out that in the early '90s, mid '90s to late '90s, there's not a lot of money for cooks. This
No.
is before celebrity chefs and all that,
Sure.
but there was three or four cities in the country that you could go make good money at cooking. So I really sunk my teeth into construction. I was good at it. Um, I worked hard. I was resilient. I would get up and go to work every day. And being there, you know this in
Yeah.
your business, being there's 80% of it.
Right.
So I would go to work every day, and got really good at it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's just kind of. I know you'd said a little bit about your opportunities that came up through construction for your window world,
yeah,
and that there where but when I look at well, I'm one of those guys that listen to the motivational crap, and I'm always on listening to a podcast and stuff
sure,
like that.
sure.
And what is it they say that profits are always better than wages? Is that ever was that ever something you thought about? It's like 'cause with wages, you can only, I had a manager one time tell me, he says, "Let me see your hands." And I show him my hands. He says, "Yeah, you're never going to make enough money with those two hands.
Hmm.
You got to have more people
Hmm.
working." And I struggle with that sometimes because I'm still in the trenches. There's a certain amount of things that only I can do at this point. And I'm really at a point in life. 5 years I've had this business. I'm trying to relieve this and
Right,
get some people in place.
sure,
I'm not there today. And who knows what's going to happen.
right.
Um, was there an epiphany there, or was it just an opportunity? It just happened.
No, so it was an epiphany. It was a pre-planned situation, I would say. In my head, I was like, look, I know that my this is a short window of time. I need to learn everything I can about, the business I've chosen to be in, or the business actually chose me. Maybe that's a better statement. I fell into a situation where I was really good at home remodeling. There was opportunity to learn it. Um, I wasn't getting paid very much at all. And then I started becoming a subcontractor, making a little bit more money, getting more involved. And then, yeah, so I recognized very early on that I looked around at some of these older, um, you know, contractors, installers. They all had bad knees, bad backs, look weathered, just, you know what I mean? You could tell
Absolutely, yeah,
they had a rough life. Half of them probably, you know, alcohol got them, that this got them, that got them, whatever. So I kind of identified early on that's not what I want to do. I got to find an opportunity. And I think in business, being ready for an opportunity and seizing it is the most important thing.
right,
So, being ready for it is one thing, but identifying it and seizing it and saying, I'm in, this is it, I've got to go, it can be very paralyzing for some people. You
Yeah.
know, they it's scary, right? Whatever it is, it's scary. So I was in the office. I was actually working for Window World at the time. I was an
Really? Yeah.
installer, yeah. So I was putting in windows and doors for a Window World, and I was walking through the office, and I overheard a conversation. It was the owner and another salesman talking about they were going to open a store. And I just kind of threw my name out. I said, I'm your guy. I said, I want in. What is it, what's it going to take? And they kind of laid out what, their plans were. And we had a beer over a game of pool probably later on that week that they kind of really laid it out cold for me what they needed. And they said, I need X amount of dollars. And I said, I'm in. I got it. I had no money.
I know.
I literally
I've
had no
been
money.
there.
I
Yeah.
mean, whatever I made that week was probably gone before it hit the bank.
Right.
But they gave, they were like, 8 more months. We'll need X amount of dollars. Well, I worked that whole summer, saved as much as I could, and I had probably 40% of what they wanted. But we were too far down the path then, and I just said, look, I'll work this off, sweat equity, what have you, and got in and made the most of that situation. Moved to Paducah, which is where I live at now, and really grew a business. When I got here, there were 15 home improvement companies that were doing the same exact thing we were going to do. And I remember very clearly there was three owners. It was me and two partners, and we were in Lowe's in Paducah here, and we were picking out carpet, I think, for the office. And the guy says, what do you do? And we kind of told him what we were doing. We were opening a company called Window World. We're going to do windows and doors and, siding and whatever else at that point in time. He goes, yeah, you're never going to make it. This town's full of guys like you. And I kind
Right.
of kind of struck me, I said, wow, I'm going to show you that's not
Exactly.
going to happen.
Yeah, that I have that a lot where people tell me I can't, and I almost do it to a fault.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it sounds like it's worked out for you.
It has.
Yeah.
So, fast forward, through the years, I've learned how to be a better owner. I had no financial training. I didn't have an MBA. I wasn't a business owner at that time. Everything I've learned has been self-taught, read. I've learned by other, we talk about mentors. Now I've got several mentors. The beautiful thing about Window World that has taught me, it's a franchise. Some
Mhm.
people may or may not know that. There's 212 offices and roughly 215 offices in all 50 all the contiguous United States. We've got two in Hawaii now. Um, so it became my family, and all those owners became my mentors. I learned so much from those guys and gals over the years of just asking stupid questions, what I thought were stupid questions. They were like, "Hey, this is it,"
Yeah.
and they've been just a godsend. I'm teaching me how money works, how life works, how to read a P&L, what a profit, what a balance sheet looks like, what it should look like, trial and error, and some of that stuff as well. Um, so yeah, in a couple years, I had bought out multiple partners. Um, in the early, I think we started here in '06. Yeah, that's when we started in Paducah, '06. By '07, I had bought out one partner, and by 2010, I'd bought my other partner out. And then since then, I have bought multiple Window Worlds, started several other businesses, whether it be, a realty holding company that I own now. I flipped houses, um, all those things. And then you get a little older, where I'm at now in life, and you think back about kind of your path. You know what my very first business was?
Yeah.
This came to my mind just as we're sitting here. When I was on a military base, I was in Alaska, Anchorage, Alaska. I was 5 years old, and I wanted, I don't know, what is a cap gun back then or whatever it
Right.
was, some kind of toy. And my mom was like, "We don't have the money. You have to figure it out, basically." And I went and dug up a bunch of rocks, washed them, cleaned them, and then I went door to door and sold those rocks.
Oh,
And I
right.
just said, "Hey, would you like to buy rocks to put around your plants, 5 cents or whatever it was back then?" I
Yeah.
mean, very, very small memory of it, but I remember I got the money for the toy I wanted. And starting then, that was my very first business.
Right.
And I was like, okay, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had several other businesses along the way. I sold candy in school. I mean,
Yeah.
I think a lot of kids did back then.
Yeah.
I had a grass mowing business
Yeah.
that was huge. Stuff like that. I think the seeds of entrepreneurship were always with me when I was growing up. It's just, again, I think it's really it comes down to a couple things: is identifying an opportunity and being able to seize it.
Yeah.
So
That story reminds me of my 8-year-old. My
yeah,
8-year-old, he's got a thing he calls the superstore, and
mm,
it's in my shop, and it's cakes and candies, and he sells a bunch because,
sure,
God's there buying for him. And, he definitely got that entrepreneur spirit because the lady who works with me, she, does the books and everything. She loves my son.
sure,
She helps him with the superstore,
yeah,
does the books, you know, and,
right.
she brought in some, little candies or something she was giving away to everybody. I don't know what it was. He says, "Oh, no, you can't have that here. This is my
This is a
location."
protected
Yeah,
territory
so, yeah, she laughed and then, of course, stuck them away,
for
but,
sure.
yeah, and then when we go to buy the superstore stock, he tends to always forget his money, so I cover it, and I don't know that I've been replenished yet, so
Right.
he knows how to buy and sell pretty good, so that was a
Send
funny
them
when you
that
said that.
vendor invoice and see
Yeah,
how
I'm
that
gonna get some
happens.
30-day late stuff going on here.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, so was Winter World a struggle at first?
It absolutely was. I had no clue. They vetted me. I knew how to install the window. Didn't really know how to sell at all. I could sell myself. I'm pretty comfortable with people, but I didn't really, back in the days, it was still Winter World was still new. It wasn't quite 10 years old, maybe 11 years old at the time as a franchise, and there were still some training growth tracks in the business. So we just didn't, we didn't. You don't know what you don't know, and so. During that time, I really just struggled to get footing. It's a new city. You don't have any connections,
Yeah,
all those things. For all those reasons, our first year, we did 720,000 in total revenue. Sounds like a lot of money,
yeah, I know where you're
but
coming from there.
you know,
Start
you
paying the bills.
start paying the bills out, the insurances, the lot rent, the this, the that. And if you know Paducah, we were two doors down. The building we had was two doors down from the brick house on North Ninth Street.
Yeah,
So it was rough end of town,
sure.
not very visible to the public. No customer wanted to come down there for sure, or very few did. And so, people didn't know you. They didn't know if you take care of them or not. And so, we sold everything as least for the least amount of money we could sell it for to get as much business and as many referrals as we could, and did the absolute possibly, the best job we could possibly do.
Right.
And I think in doing what we said we were going to do for the city of Paducah, and by city, I mean the citizens that contracted with us, um, being on time, doing what we said we were going to do. If something was wrong, fixing it fast and efficiently, and trying to do the best thing you could possibly do for that customer and the company. We've grown
Yeah,
exponentially. And so, fast forward, it's been 18 years now. We've been in business here in Paducah.
yeah.
So,
So do you guys, when you started, did you, have a lot of employees or was it a lot of subcontracted?
no, so I sold every job, every sales appointment I went on for the first 3 years. So I had no salesman. I had one person in the office, um, and she's actually her and her husband own a business here today in town.
Yeah.
Shout out to Charlotte. Um, so
What's their business?
Atomic City.
Atomic City. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
so her and her husband own Atomic City, and Charlotte was my first admin when we first opened. She did a great job for us. And so I was actually not living in Paducah at the time, so I still had a place in Bowling Green. You know, uh, my my then wife, who now I'm divorced from, was living in Bowling Green, and I would come up here, I think on a Sunday night or Monday morning, stay all week and sleep in the office,
Mm,
and then we had a little shower back in the warehouse. It's gonna sound like
I've been
a
there,
sad
man.
story, but
No,
we had a little shower that you had to wear flip flops in because it was just not
yeah.
the cleanest shower.
Sure.
And I slept on an air mattress, and we had four offices in that little building, little 10 by 10 offices. So I would have to be awake, showered, cleaned up, and ready to go before Charlotte would get there in the morning. Um, and yeah, so that's what we did for roughly 3 years till I bought out my last partner.
And your installers, were they supplied by Window World
Yeah.
franchise or did you have employees or did you subcontract that?
So I subcontracted. subcontracted that out. That was kind of our business model, right?
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah, again, we were trying to keep costs low. So, they were basically captured subcontractors. We would, vet them, get them in, and we would give them enough work that they didn't, necessarily want to go anywhere else. They could schedule their time off and they could do what they needed to do, and they held their own insurance and they were, good tradesmen.
Yeah,
But I ran every single, um, install. I would go by every install every day and do the best I could do.
yeah.
So yeah,
You could probably had them with contract you maybe that they would I'm sure by now, but now you probably have that for sure, right? That they preferentially, because of the amount of work you can give them, treat you
you
them.
can't do that. It's
Yeah.
illegal. Yeah.
Really?
Then they become an employee.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I did
Yeah.
experience that a little bit. If you ever
Yeah.
tell someone they have to be there on a certain day
Yep.
and time, yeah,
Yeah. By their own free will, they have to choose to accept or deny the work you give them.
yeah,
Um, And so this is part of the maturation of a business owner, right? Back in the day, you thought you could, hey, this is where I need you here, and
yeah,
you'd learn pretty quickly that you didn't want to play unemployment insurance, you didn't want to play match FICA, and you didn't all the things you didn't know, you didn't want to do, you couldn't do, plus the workman's comp insurance and all that goes along with that. So. Yeah, so it was a good arrangement. I took care of them. They got paid every Friday. My job was to run the business and sell as much work as I could possibly sell and keep them as busy as possible. And in return, they would, do good work, hopefully, and then they would take care of their families and grow.
yeah,
Uh, and some of these guys have been with me 16, 18 years now.
yeah,
I've still got guys with me from the original store, from the original days, that are still in my organization today. And, we're brothers. They've seen it all. They've seen the ups, downs, and sideways. So,
yeah. So do you see a difference in that kind of mentality with the newer generations coming in?
mm,
Me and Tristan, we did a little deal the other day.
yeah,
It's XYZ, with his generation.
right,
Um, I see my line of work. It's just complete. It is so hard to find good anybody just interested, not even good help. So
right.
yeah,
To answer that question, I mean, I think there's a lot of positives. Newer generations. And this is going to sound a little myopic, but I truly believe Gen X is probably the last great critical thinking generation of our time. I think that computers and this is going to sound completely old school, but I think that everybody's got a computer in their hand today,
yeah,
right? They do.
you're a
They you
cyborg.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can you can answer whatever question you want by a click of a button today.
sure.
So it takes some of that critical thinking skills, out of your hands. And I think that but for that reason, I think we're the last great generation that we were feral. No, nobody knew where we were
Yeah,
at.
the
They couldn't
lost.
contact us if they wanted to. We could get lost off the grid for 3 days and come show back up, and
Right.
it's no big deal.
Yeah,
It's not possible today. You've got like 360, you've got this app, that app,
yeah.
a lot of good, technology advancements that make my life easier today because of this generation too. So they're an amazing group, and they've got some challenges ahead of them that I think we never experienced, obviously. So,
Being in Gen X myself, I'm really glad to hear you say that about the new generations because they
mhm,
do take really a hard hit.
mhm,
Um, and they come up through COVID. A lot of these
right,
guys are coming up through COVID, and that changes the society. I mean, and when they were coming through COVID, when you and I were coming through COVID, we were just thinking, all right, how can I find a way to work, or how can I,
right,
they were still developing people skills. They were still
right,
developing a lot of those skills, life skills, stuck in a house.
right,
Um, Not to give them just excuses, but they had a lot to overcome, and like you said with the phones, we get onto these sometimes maybe our children or the younger one about being on their phone all the time. But how do I live your life without a phone?
yeah,
Everything you do, even their school, requires them that use a phone.
right,
So, and that's not changing, and it's only going to be more in depth the more you go. So,
right.
I always try to give that generation. I guess because I have two Gen Zs, and I don't even know what Enoch would be. Gen Alpha. Okay,
Alpha,
yeah.
yeah,
So I got all
yeah.
these kids coming up, and I want them to have a fair swing, and you can't have a fair swing when you walk into a situation like that.
No, you're not wrong. And the damage that's done to the world that our past generations have done, and society as a whole, they're dealing with it,
Yeah.
at this point. I mean, some of these, you've got millennials that and Gen Zers that they can't buy a home right now. Well,
Yeah.
how crazy is that? The American dream, right, of owning a home isn't possible right now for them. There's a lot of challenges, social media pressures. When we were in school, there were some things that we did um, that nobody knew about
Absolutely.
and would never know about. Um, this generation, everything they do is blasted out for society to see. I mean, I'm on a podcast. I'm
Right.
not gonna I'm not
Yeah.
gonna
All
lie.
right.
Last night I was a little trepidatious. I was like talking to Stacy. I said, you can't undo the internet. Whatever I say is going to be
All
there.
right.
And so
Right.
little situations like that they deal with every day, right?
Right.
And
It's become just a norm for them. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely,
They that generation too. I mean, when you look at going forward, they sometimes it's really confusing. My daughter just started, just getting ready to start over at West Kentucky doing this, and I sometimes wonder. I listen to Elon and a lot of these guys, and a lot of them are saying, college. Look at me, I broke the rule. Um, the college is not necessary anymore, and I didn't go to college, and as you
right?
said, you didn't either. I could see some advantages there, but a lot of times it seems like so if you got one thing that you're trying to accomplish, and as you said, with the sands of time, I always say that, eternity doesn't have a beginning or an end. We're in this little speck that we're here,
True story.
you know, not a lot there, but these guys are, at a very high pace. You got to get going quick. So do you spend 3 years, 2 years of your life learning X, Y, Z plus what you're wanting to learn, or do you just go learn what you're wanting to learn? So that's kind of
My advice to somebody going through that right now would be this, and I think it's pretty clear for me. If you're going to be a lawyer, an architect, an engineer, or some professional in that capacity, it absolutely you have to go to school for it. That's your passion, that's your love. Go to college, get
yeah,
that degree. If not, do not do it. We've been telling kids for 15 years learn how to write code, 20 years learn how to write code. Well, AI is getting ready to write the code for you.
yeah.
So you know where the money's at, and this is the secret nobody's talking about. I think there's a dirty jobs guy. What's his name?
Micro.
Mike Rowe
Yeah,
has been
I
talking about
listen.
it
Yeah.
for a while, and it's to your point. What you do is an art form. My dad was a big car guy, so I have a huge amount of appreciation for what you do for a living.
Well, thank you.
I've watched him, take an old Vega and sand it down, 16 different ways from Sunday. And I'm like, that looks good. He goes, it's not ready yet. Sand it some
Yeah.
more, sand it some more. So that's an art, right? If you learn how to be a service industry guy, or gal, you're going to kill it in the future.
Hmm.
I have customers that doctors, lawyers, bankers, whatever, can't turn a screwdriver. It's not their gig. They don't know how to fix their home. And guess what? They got to pay people like me to do it.
Hmm.
I've got installers that I always see this list come out of highest paid professions. And then, they got anesthesiologists, $180,000, um, you know, a surgeon, 320,000, et cetera, et cetera. And I kind of always kind of smirk and giggle. And they're like, what? And I go, well, I've got a crew that made $350,000 last year,
Yeah.
and they killed it. Now they worked through the rain, sleet, snow, 6 days a week. They pushed and they did it, but they made good money and they took care of their family doing it. So I would push anybody that wanted to get in the service industry: plumbers, welders, pipe fitters, you know, window and door
Yeah.
installers,
Right.
siding installers, especially right now. Any of those guys in the trades, get it, get good at it, become the best you could possibly be at it, and you can name your price.
Yeah.
So,
I say that to a lot of younger guys coming in. I don't have as many as I used to, but I'm like, give it 5 years, man. You'll be able to write your own check
yep,
because you're not going to have competition because
that's right.
everybody wants to do this.
Yep.
I get it. They want to be, they don't want to get into that. But like you said, the skilled trade will be one of the last thing AI can take over.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So absolutely right there.
And the beautiful part about it, we just talked about technology being a hindrance, right?
Yeah.
Well, on this platform, YouTube, you can find anything, you can find out how to do anything you want.
Right.
That was never the way. You had to
Absolutely.
learn by years. Fast forward, we kind of touched on poker a little bit earlier, and we'll talk about more about it. I've learned more about poker over the last 2 years just on YouTube and reading books, reading articles, but on the internet. And I mean, fast forwarded it 20 years.
Absolutely,
I
yeah,
mean, could have never learned it in 20 years by losing pot after pot or money,
sure,
tons of money.
yeah,
That's not what I want to do.
yeah,
But I learned tournament poker quickly and efficiently by, YouTube. If I wanted to learn how to become a tradesman, plumber, obviously some of that stuff you might have to go to school for to be in the union, depending on what trade that is. But you can learn just about whatever you want with that little computer in your hand if you'll spend the time and the energy to be singularly focused and become the best you can possibly be at that trade, whatever it
right.
is.
Yeah, I tell a lot of the young guys coming in, I said, "You're the best tool that we've had in years is not a finger belt grinder. It's not all those little cool tools. It's YouTube.
Right.
Right now, you can, if somebody's done it and somebody's done it wrong and they know a better way to do it,
Sure.
taking door panels apart.
Yeah.
How many times have I sat there trying to figure out where the last screw holding this door panel is? And then once I do that, of course, the next ones I know.
Yeah.
I know how to take most any door panel off, but then there's new door panels, and then there's new stuff that technology in the automotive industry is getting insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wonder about that as well, where that's going to lead. But yeah, that's what I tell people here. Like when we started this podcast, and for people who've been watching it, generously watching it, because I know I've had great guests. Every person I've had on here were cool. We struggled with all of this part. It was a struggle, and we still today. I told you when you come in. I think we finally got it dialed in. I think we're
Right.
gonna have one of our best audio video experiences all
Well, I'm
around.
glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
glad too. This is 20. This is number 20. So it was a big deal for us. But it took us, it's unbelievable how much it takes, especially when you don't have this enormous budget. If you can go out and spend, 20, $30,000. I follow a guy, theory of, and I talk about him all the time, theory of an entrepreneur. Is that right, Tristan? Diary, sorry, wrong one.
Yeah.
Diary of a CEO. And he talked about how to make $1 million podcast. And he said he went to his audio video friend. And he says, "Hey, I want to do a podcast. Set me up." And the guy comes back to him with like $7,000 budget, and he's like, "No, I don't think you know what I want." He says, "I want the best possible." He comes back to him with like $47,000. They got cameras on tracks and a
Sure.
little higher end what we got going on. But
Sure.
learning that all YouTube.
Yeah.
And I tell Tristan, he'll be like, he also worked at the shop for a while, and he's like, "What do I need to do?" I said, "If you ain't got anything to do, watch YouTube."
Hmm.
We have a system called OBS. It's like a little cheat you can use on your computer without having to buy a lot of hardware. Um, I know about everything there is to know about it, and I've only been using it for a couple months. My wife, she streams. She said, "This is what we need," and I'm on Tristan. I'm over here looking over his shoulder. And as you've seen earlier, knowing some of those tricks. But yeah, it's all right there.
It's all there.
Yeah,
And so this generation, eh, our generation had an excuse.
yeah.
We were disconnected, right? Like again, we were feral. This generation doesn't really have an excuse.
No, they don't.
From they've got the most powerful tools in the world right in their hand. They
Yeah,
have to use it, right? You have to want to use it.
and Dana White, I'm sure you know who I'm
Yeah.
talking about. He was talking about how he talks to his kids, and he's like, "You just need to be a little aggressive in this world because
Hmm.
the world's so softened."
I saw that interview.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you just a little bit of an aggression, a little bit of pluck, a little bit of, okay, I'm going to get up extra early so I can get
Hmm.
this done and maybe get this and watch for those opportunities. And I just think, and I know this may be my ego talking, but I just think if I was 25 in this generation right now with who I am and who I was, geez, I'd own it in 5 years.
You know, as two old guys sitting
Yeah,
here
right.
cutting up, we like to say that, but would we?
You could be right.
Mm.
I get checked quite a bit,
Yeah.
because I'm really, I don't know if I'm not liberal by no means. I'm what Tristan would call right leaning, but every once in a while they'll say something and it makes sense.
Sure.
When we grew up, man, it was just normal. If your dad threw wrenches and cussed at you, that's just what dads do.
Right.
I got into a little thing where I'd flip the table about every 3 years, and it would catch your attention. It would
Right.
everybody like, "Oh,
You gotta turn the trash cans over.
yeah,
Yeah.
that means business,"
Right.
and then, yeah, they put you in check on some of those things, and then you gotta kinda self-reflect and say,
Yeah.
maybe there's more to this than what I
And that's kind of that empathetic vein that I was talking about earlier. I think you've got to look at any situation and go, you can beat your chest and say, "Oh, I'd be that guy."
mm,
But part of our life experiences have made us who we are today. That's the fabric of who we are, right? I still feel like your statement. I'm going to stick with it. I probably agree with you, right? But at the
yeah.
same time, if we had to go through COVID as a
Oh,
19-year-old,
yeah.
if we weren't forced to play outside until sundown, if we didn't get the wrench thrown at us,
Yeah.
would we be that same person? I don't know. Maybe,
Maybe
probably not. Maybe,
different, but I
yeah,
do see, in certain people, and even the younger generation, I see that always on the lookout for an opportunity.
yeah,
There it's a little bit of a hunger there,
yeah,
and I try to wake up in the mornings and say, "There's just as much opportunity for a good to happen as there is something bad." Sometimes we align ourselves with one more than the other,
sure, sure,
um, but I'm always trying to a fault,
right,
and it can affect your family life quite a bit. I've
mhm,
worked so much, and I still do, and I'm looking for that balance, that work life balance. And a lot of people will say there's no such thing if you're going to be successful. So we'll see.
no,
But
I disagree. I think there is. I think you have to choose it.
yeah,
I think you have to choose to be purposeful with your time. And then I think, yeah, to your statement earlier, I think you have to put the right people around you when you become, a CEO, an operator, a visionary of your business, whatever you want to call yourself. I think that you have to put one thing I really learned late in life, probably in the last 6 to 8 years. I tried to do everything myself earlier, previous to that. Last 4 to 6 years, find the best possible talent you can find at the highest level of character that you could possibly find in your talent pool and put them around you and teach them what you know. They'll tell you who they are pretty quickly.
yeah,
It's just up to you to listen, right?
yeah. I mean, I've experienced that in the last year and a half. I brought somebody back on who works the finances, and it's changed everything. We're still doing a lot of catch up, but finding those other people, and
Right.
maybe I'm expecting more than what I'm going to get, but I'm looking for that person that can just step in and say, "Okay,
Yeah.
I got this. Get out of the way." I would love for
Yeah.
someone to say, "No, just I got it. I don't need." Uh,
They're hard to find.
they are
And one thing I think, here's a good statement. Nobody will love and care about your business like you do.
absolutely, yeah,
Once you realize that, everything else becomes you've got to put them in situations and hold them accountable, but don't over micromanage them.
yeah. I try not to. I've been working
Hard
on
to
it.
do,
It is really hard.
and then especially from somebody from I think your trade, you're a perfectionist, right?
Yeah,
I could tell,
definitely. You have.
and it's hard to let go of that.
Yeah, I'll tell you what really gets me is when I deliver a vehicle, and we've spent a year and a half, sometimes longer, put $100,000 in this thing. It's beautiful. I am worried to death about make sure all the bolts in every little thing, because for whatever magical reason, my clients will walk right up and find it right away, and I
100%.
I hate looking like an idiot.
Yeah,
So I'm trusting these guys to make sure all these things are happening, and it's a wrenching feeling
yeah,
to deliver a
yeah.
car and be a little concerned about.
You know, the beautiful part about that is it's not how you start, it's how you finish.
Yeah.
So you can pivot from that moment pretty easily if you and you have. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but when they find that bolt, just go, doggone it, I knew there was something missing. Let me get that right
Yeah.
now for you. Let me
Yeah.
take care of that,
Right.
and you can make them feel, it's fine. Perfection's unattainable,
Yeah.
and you just got to deal with it as it comes.
Yeah. It's tough. It's one of my things that I struggle with. I'm pretty good with people.
Yeah,
You know, I
no doubt.
I got what I always say. I got a good showing. But at the same time, it just eats me up, and
Yeah,
I'll think about it. I'm weird like that. I'll think about it for someone will say something in a negative tone, and I will. I mean, and I'm not. It's like this. Like I used to tell people, I've been fought in cages with monsters. Oh, huge, and their goal is to kill you unless the ref pulls
sure,
them off. I just step in and go. The only thing I was ever scared of fighting was letting the people on the sidelines down. I didn't want people to see me ever lose.
sure.
And I'm not scared of any. But then I got a little old lady who calls me, "Is my car done?" Da 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 da
Scared
da.
to
I'm
death.
like,
Yeah,
I'm
You
sorry,
know?
ma'am. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm taking a knee to her.
Well, that's what drives you in business, right?
Yeah, right.
That's that's the goal, right? Is to please every single person you can
Yeah.
possibly please. Men in general, I think, and this is going to probably be a very blanket statement. We show how we care. We talked about this earlier. We show how we care by acts of service mostly.
Mhm.
And so I think it fits our DNA as we're doing service for other people. That's our love language. That's what we want to give them. That's what we want to show that we care. Now, they're compensating us for that time in our business, right? But that's innate in our DNA.
Yeah,
We want to, you know, go way back, right? We want to hunt, we want to provide, and we want to show acts of service. That's who we are
yeah.
from the very basic DNA of a man. So
That's me to a T. I always try to, and I tell everybody, my kids and my wife, I'm like, when you do something and you're working side by side with somebody, do the extra. Be
sure.
the extra so that when time comes that you're ready to dial back, you're like, hey, listen, I put back, I put in what I, and I do that a lot with my family. I'm like, I'm going to go the extra mile. I'm going to do this so that I can get that 30 minutes of sitting
Hmm.
down at night, and this is me.
Hmm.
I feel like I have to do that to
Right.
deserve that. It's in your DNA to a certain degree.
So Joe, do you have let me flip the camera around here,
Yeah, let's
right?
go
Yeah.
for it.
Do you have a set thing you do every day? Do you have a set um you know
Kind of a routine.
chronological order of things you do things in? Like, do you wake up early? Do you wake up late? Anything like that?
Mm.
Do you just have a way of being every day that helps you focus on what you do?
I try, you know, I was always into fighting and fitness and training, and I like getting up early, going for a run and taking a few minutes, but with my life, sometimes it just continually gets more and more and more. And I've cut that completely out.
Yeah.
So routine wise, I get up at the same time and I bound my way to the shop as fast as I can. Other than that, I try. My kids are starting to get older, so we don't have that. I told you before we started that I would always want to have 3 or 4 meals at night when they were there, and we sit down. That was always nice, and I miss that. I hate change. I will tell you that because I don't know. My kids are moving out and we don't do that anymore.
Mhm.
So I struggle there. But as far as a routine, no, I would love it. But here's my big thing. Like my big thing right now is I just don't have that. I'm still week to week on 5 years in, and we're still week to week. So I'm chasing payroll every week.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's first thing in the morning, I'm thinking about
Sure.
4 days away is payroll, 3 days away is payroll,
Yeah.
2 days away is payroll. How am I going to, and that affects my business as well because I'm chasing payroll. I'm out trying to get someone to pay, what they owe us, and I don't have that cushion. So, yeah, that's a struggle.
Yeah,
This is my relief,
for sure.
honestly. This is something I really enjoy doing. I love cars. I used to tell people, not to take up too much time, but I used to
No.
tell I could rub a car, I could touch a car, and it feel like it talked to me. This is kind of a mystical thing, but I do believe that objects can hold presence
Mhm.
in them. And some people think that. So I have a few things in my drawer beside my bed, and everything else I can walk away from. I don't care. I've done it so many times, but there's a few things that people have given me, and I feel that presence of them with that.
Right.
And I see felt used to feel that in cars, and it's not the car's fault. But now when I see a classic car coming in the road, I look the other way. It's people have beat it out of me. And
Oh, that's unfortunate.
yeah, it is. It does suck a little bit because when I go in on weekends and I work nights. One day, just 2, 3 weeks ago, I worked
Mhm.
38 hours straight
Right.
because I do business during the day, work on car at night. Now, when I work on a car at night, it's different, man. The world's quiet at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, it is. And that's what I was getting to.
Yeah,
I didn't know. Like, I've got a routine. I try to see as many sunrises as possible. I think sunrises, in kind of my estimation, a lot of people see sunsets, but how many see sunrises? And so,
yeah,
watch a sunrise, catch your breath, take care of yourself, whether it's in the gym or just reading or kind of focusing on what you're going to do for the day, because you give the rest of the day to everybody else, whether it
right,
be your employees, your customers, or your wife, your kids, whatever it is. I think it's important to take at least 2 hours in the morning if you can. Get up at 4:30, 5 a.m. Um, focus on yourself and then go on about your day. So that's why I was asking. I didn't know
Yeah,
if I'm the only one that does that. Well, I know I'm not the only one that does that, but
yeah.
I didn't know if other, if you kind of
I
subscribe to that
try.
same theory. So
I have tried to do that. Just kind of a reset right first thing in the morning,
first thing,
and it definitely.
yep.
I feel better. I've got more energy. I have better mental focus, but
Mhm.
sometimes life just
Oh,
takes it away from you
takes it
for,
out of you.
and I always tell myself,
Yeah,
this is a moment.
yeah.
We'll get through this. And
You know what the byproduct of that, unfortunately, is everybody wants to go stay up to midnight, 11 midnight.
yeah,
You can't do that if you're getting up at
no,
4:35. You got to have,
no.
a little bit of sleep. So
Back in,
I am a early to bed kind of guy.
yeah. Well,
Most nights, unless we're doing something or,
yeah. Well, I think
there's.
after the break, maybe we talk a little bit about poker, and I will tell
Hmm.
you this, that I um I ran a game for a while with a friend, and I would work all day, and then from Sunday to Friday, well, no, actually Saturday, I was up all maybe 2 hours of sleep a night,
Hmm.
and I did that for a year and a half.
Right.
And Friday I was dead,
Yeah. Takes
um,
it out of you.
because I not only was running a game, I was hitting all the other games, and then and for a good part of that, I was also working during the day. So tried it again recently. We tried to start it, and I was like, I don't think I can pull it off anymore. Yeah, it
Mm.
changed
You have to
everything.
change your body clock
Yeah,
completely. I mean, when again, we'll get into poker, but going out to the World Series of poker, you have to start multiple weeks ahead of time, changing your body clock, staying up to 1 a.m., 2 a.m., sleeping into 8, 9 a.m. at least, get 6, 7 hours of sleep,
yeah,
um, in order to make it through that gauntlet of if you're going to play tournament poker, that's what it takes.
yeah,
You got to play 14-ish hours a day every day, plus sometimes longer. And you're going to not start until 11 o'clock or noon.
yeah,
And so that means you need to sleep. And you can't wake up at that 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. You'll be done by 9 p.m.
yeah.
And that's just when it's getting good, right? So,
Yeah, yeah, you definitely got to be able. Some people have an ability to force themselves to sleep.
yeah,
You guys like, I have to sleep now.
yes.
So where are we at? Okay, so let's do that. Let's take a break.
Okay.
Maybe we'll finish up a little bit on the business side, but
Yeah.
then let's jump into poker and
All the good
some of
stuff.
the fun stuff you
Yeah.
do. I know you're a big bourbon guy. We
Yeah.
talked about that. We both were talking about bourbon to ourselves. It seems like maybe it's too early to start, but I think now we'll be a little closer to the noon,
Partake in a
a little
little
closer to the noon, and we'll do that.
spirits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll take a short break and right back. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Always try and catch something.
Beautiful thing about spirits, bourbon in general,
Yeah.
you drink it how you want it.
I guess I need to get a little more involved with it because I have another friend, and he's been on the podcast twice. He's big into bourbon, and he's got several different kinds, and he was always coming in here explaining to me this and how he got this one from um, this guy, and he didn't want to open it, and then they decided to open it and all that kind of stuff. So I guess I need to get a little more involved, especially since I'm from Kentucky.
Well, I mean, it's you like what you like. I
Yeah.
mean, at the end of the day, you've got to just if you don't like it, bourbon's one of the funny things. You know why they say more men like bourbon than women? Here's a little fun fact:
Okay.
women have more taste buds than men.
Didn't realize that.
Just biology wise, they don't have they have more taste buds, so they taste things completely different than men. And men, um, we like to pretend like we like stuff sometimes, and
Well, and sometimes you pretend to like it until you actually do.
right,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah. Unacquired taste.
good bourbon and good wine are, you don't know what you don't know,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
And so once you've had, I used to not like wine,
Yeah.
and then I had good wine, and that changed everything.
I don't mind. I like a white sometimes, some, and my wife, she loves wine. But I've always been the guy. I don't drink like we have a couple probably friends through poker, and I got one friend in poker. He'll drink an 18 pack, and I'm like, where do you put it, dude? Where's it go? I can't even. I just can't drink that much fluid at one time.
Yeah, especially not beer, right?
Yeah, and that's every night. And I grew up like that. My dad and grandpa and all them. But so when I drink, it's usually let's get it kind of deal. It's 2 or 3 times a year, really get loose and have a good time.
Hmm.
But yeah, maybe I should look at a little more. And I do have a drink on occasion in the evenings when I'm finishing work up at home, just to kind of let the world kind of go away a little bit. But
I grew up, like I said, talking about bourbon. Fort Knox, Kentucky, Radcliffe, Kentucky, but Elizabethtown, if you're familiar with Kentucky, it's just right outside of Bardstown, which
Yeah.
is, the bourbon capital of the world. And I'll fight somebody over
Uh,
calling something bourbon that's not made in Kentucky. I'm very
yeah.
proud of, well, Kentucky's all about bourbon and horses, right?
Right.
We get a bad rap on education and everything else, but it's kind of a forgotten about state in a lot of ways. But I think people are falling in love with Kentucky over again in the mid to late 2000s, all the way up. Bourbon is a funny thing. It's an expression of different, yeasts and mash bills, and you can taste so many things. You can taste vanilla and caramel, and if you really pay attention, it could be a very interesting a journey with your taste buds.
Yeah.
Um,
I can definitely tell the difference between different, different brands. So, are you? I know they're talking about putting a right across the road from my shop. There's a distillery they were trying to get put in over there. Are you familiar with any of
I
that local
am.
stuff?
Um, yeah, so I mean, there's just different distilleries popping up, here, there, and everywhere. I've heard some stories about your shop out there and what's going on out there. We'll see what happens. It's a rich man's game. You've got to be able to pour a ton of money in it, and you've got to be able to sit on it for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Um,
What's the time frame on that?
so bourbon has to be at least 4 years, and better if it's older, obviously. But there's a point where it becomes too old. My sweet spot for bourbon is 12 years, 12 to 15 years. I think is the perfect amount of time that bourbon sits in a barrel. And then the longer it sits, the less bourbon you get. Right, you get angel share where that bourbon evaporates out, gets squeezed through the barrel out of the barrel, and you lose. You get to 20 years, you lose 60% of what you put in.
Wow.
It's kind of crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. Now you
So
say it's an angel share and that's
that's yeah,
squeezed. Like, can you explain that a little more?
yeah. So
This is going to be good because I have
yeah,
very little knowledge here, so
all
everyone
right.
gets to learn with me.
So that's part of the beauty about. That's why I fell in love with barbecue, like I fell in love with bourbon. There's a lore to it, right? There's
Yeah,
stories. There's a ton of
that's
stories out there.
huge.
Different mash bills, bourbon. They used to share, recipes. This other distillery, would catch on fire, and this distillery would loan it bourbon. They'd package it under their name and sell it,
Hmm.
and nobody would know the difference. Just tons of stories through the years about stuff like that. But angel share is an old adage, if you will, about the dissipation of the bourbon. When you put it, let's just say a bourbon has to be a couple things, right? In my mind, it has to be made in Kentucky,
Right,
right?
right.
It has to be made with, a certain water. It's only found in Kentucky, lime water. They used to sell the water by itself, matter of fact.
Really?
Just Stitzel water is what they called it. But it comes from going through certain minerals, through the earth, and you had to have a water source. It's made predominantly of corn. That's what bourbon is. There's some rye out there and some different expressions, but in my mind, it has to be 51% corn. It has to be aged for a certain amount of years. 4 years is kind of the standard. The more, the better. You get Old Seven. I think is Jim Beam was kind of the first one to say we're going to be 7 years. That's going to be our expression of bourbon. Um, Buffalo Trace came on the scene much later. There's a lot of different cool things about bourbon that you speak to. But so you put 300 gallons in a white a white oak charred barrel. It's got to be white oak, and it's charred on the inside, and it helps filter out age the bourbon. That's where it gets its color. Because when bourbon goes in as white. It's called white dog. It's
Hmm.
completely clear. It's a mash bill that comes down and filtered through, and it goes into this barrel, gives it that tint color. It also gives it part of the flavor, right?
Right.
So you put 300 gallons in a bourbon barrel, and every year you lose a little bit, depending on where it's at in the rick house. And the rick house is where they store the bourbon. The higher it is, the hotter it is. The lower it is, the more mellow it is, right? So let's just take Pappy Van Winkle, which is a very popular bourbon for a lot of reasons. I think it's overrated in some instances, but
I've heard
it's
of it.
it's it's so they put that on the very lowest floor of the rick house. It's mellow, it's moldy, it's down there with very little sunlight, and So the son doesn't get it, and in the bourbon world, and there's going to be people out there that are going to correct me and say that's not right. Well, this is how I learned bourbon, so
Yeah, this is
this is my story. So,
right, exactly.
um,
They're not here.
yeah, they got 25 floors, just say, of bourbon racks, right?
Mm.
And there's people back in the day that their whole job was to go around and open and close windows, and it would take them an entire day to go around, open the windows, take them, and go back and close them. Because what's unique about Kentucky is the humidity, the water, and the weather, right?
Yeah.
You get long, hot, humid summers here, right? You get cold winters, and so that moisture, that humidity, and that sunlight would get in, and it squeezes the bourbon barrels. It contracts and expands, right?
Okay.
And it's wood, so it contracts and expands, and it forces the bourbon to get soaked into the wood, and then it dissipates, and that's the angel share. The rest of it's ours.
Okay, now I
So
catch on
does
to
that
what
make
you're saying.
sense?
Yeah, now I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. I'm
Yep.
definitely in.
So that's just kind of, an old. You got two old men sitting around talking, and they're going to come up with a name for
You sure?
something. So,
Yeah, it makes sense now.
hmm
So, you know, I get Buffalo Trace most of the time,
right,
just because a friend of mine, that's what he always had in the poker room, and I seen Joe Rogan talk about it. um, so that's going to be just like a everyman's day kind of.
yeah. I
Where
mean,
are
listen,
we looking at? I mean, a friend of mine was talking in hundreds and in even low thousands, but you were talking like multiple thousands of dollars for bourbon,
tens of thousands of
tens of
dollars.
thousands of
Yeah.
dollars.
So I've been collecting for a long time. Again, growing up in Elizabethtown, in that area, Radcliffe. Julian Van Winkle, Pappy's great, I guess it'd be great grandson, not sure, but Julian was the youngest, and he would come out, um, and this is going to sound to bourbon collectors, he'd bring a 15-year Pappy out, Pappy Van Winkle out. He'd sign it for you, $5
Mm,
back in the day, $10, $12. They couldn't give it away in the 80s and 90s.
really?
And '06, I think, completely turned the bourbon industry on its ear. You know who Anthony Bourdain is.
Oh yeah.
So Anthony went out. I forget what restaurant it was. It was somewhere. I think it was somewhere in Kentucky. But he ordered a 20-year Pappy. It's on that menu.
Mm,
And like I said, you can get it away $40, $30 is what you get it for back then. And he said, "This is the Bourdain. What when he spoke about something, food,
everything.
beverage, it was gospel back in the
Yeah.
day." And he said, "This is absolutely the best bourbon possibly made." And it was a 20-year Pappy, and that was maybe '04. I'm not sure, somewhere in that time frame. When he did that, it completely flipped everything.
Mm,
Then you had people from New York to L.A. to Chicago and everywhere in between that wanted a 20-year Pappy. Um, and there's a ton of bourbon out there that are, I feel like, better. Um, but that was the old, what they call the Stitzelweller um, juice or mash bill. And that's what everybody's looking for, right? And so after that, collectability went up. I had a ton of bottles. I collected more. I saw an opportunity to make money with it. Again,
yeah.
seizing an opportunity. Um, I got bottles for $200, $400, $300 that are now worth 5,000, 8,000, $10,000. Um,
Do you see the market changing any direction
I
later?
do,
You
I
see it?
do. I said, hold on, probably don't buy any bourbon for a while because it's going to get really saturated and it's going to
Yeah.
shift. I think people are going to start going to, you know, we can ask the Gen Zer
Yeah.
in the room.
Yeah.
Um,
He's a
yeah,
bourbon guy. He likes it.
there's two things I think that are kind of going away, right? Gen Zers aren't gambling like our generation did,
No.
and they're definitely not drinking like our generation did.
Mhm.
Not near
No.
as much.
No.
They're way more into health conscious, which is a good thing, right?
Yeah,
I mean that
absolutely.
I've some of the old vices that our generation have are going away because they're so those are two things that I think you can enjoy it without becoming obviously drinking too much or,
Sure.
or, or whatever.
Well, especially as strong as some of it is, you're gonna
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean we talked about earlier. There's some bourbons that are 145 proof, 148 proof.
Does the angel share play into that? Losing a certain amount of it, does that concentrate it or doesn't really change it?
No, so what happens is you get barrel proof bourbon, okay? And it come out, 142, 145 proof. Well, they add water to it.
Okay.
And when they do that, they proof it down to a 90, which is more palatable for a lot of people.
Yeah.
or 80 proof, 40% by alcohol. So you just take the percentage of alcohol and then you double it, and that gives you the proof, basically.
Gotcha.
Um, but there's what a lot of bourbon aficionados really want is they want a single barrel, which means it came out of one barrel in that bottle. They didn't mix it all together and then batch it, if you will, you know, um, by recipe. And then they want it to be a high proof because, kind of like me, I'm going to sit here and sip on this for 20 minutes, and that's probably all I'm going to have. I want to taste it.
Mm.
I want to know where it came from. I want to know its history. Maybe I'll have a little bit more, but at the end of the day, hot bourbon, that 140 proof is for the winter. It's not for the summer.
Yeah, yeah,
Start breaking out a little sweat because it's very hot, and a lot
yeah,
of people can't take it.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I've ever tasted anything that with that proof, but, yeah, you talking about the Gen Zers though, Tristan, he doesn't exercise and he drinks bourbon, so he's not a typical.
Well, and
Actually, he does. He
yeah.
exercises. His mom's a fitness trainer, so yeah, he
Oh
does
wow, okay.
train. But,
You
yeah,
have no
he
choice.
yeah.
You're in the life now. Do you work on cars with him? Not it's not
He
your thing,
he started out working with cars, at the shop. He just came in and you put a DA in his hand and he
right?
would, start sanding. He could, as long as you give him an earbud, he'd sit there and sand on a car all day. He'd sand through the metal, and not know what that car is the whole time. So yeah, I don't try to force it. He drove that little I got a little Mustang and he wrecked his car, so he drove it for a little while and everybody liked it, but he never knew what he was driving half the time. Yeah. So, yeah, he's not a car guy. That's okay.
What are you into? What do you like?
Oh my gosh.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. He's already wrote I think one or two novels and he hasn't got them published yet, but he's a little bit of a perfectionist too. We'll see. We'll see where he
Thanks
goes.
for allowing me to have a little cigar.
Yeah.
It's
That's,
hopefully if it bothers you or gets in the way, just let me
no.
know.
It,
I might have 5 a year, 6 a year.
yeah.
I'd really try to limit it. But I'm on camera today, and
Yeah.
it helps kind of smooth things out. It goes great with bourbon too.
Yeah.
So
So it's something else I've always been interested in that. And two thing, I'm not, nothing against smoking, but I can't hardly handle.
sure,
I guess because I grew up in it so much. I mean,
yeah.
back in the day when I was, everybody smoked, and you were in the
Everybody smoked.
car
You were in
with
an
a kid.
airplane.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
had
airplane. They had little,
crazy, isn't it?
but they'd drive with the windows up, and
Yeah.
you're a kid. You're like 5. I think you'd probably get pulled over doing that today.
I think
You
our
know,
generation, this is gonna sound
I,
like an old guy, but our generation was the most unprotected generation. We didn't have bike helmets.
no,
We didn't wear skate pads when we were roller skating or skateboarding. They smoked in the car with the
yeah,
windows up. You get in the airplane, they was smoking the
yeah,
airplane. I didn't, I didn't get in the airplane until I was well into my adult life. But I'd heard about it anyway. But seat belts were terrible. All those
yeah.
things.
If you even
You
wore
drank hose
seatbelts,
water.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
uh, so when's the last time you drank water out of a hose, or if ever? Yeah,
Yeah, he did. He when he was so Tristan and I pretty close, and that's one thing I'm very fortunate about, and makes me really glad that I have the ability to run my own business. Is I've always wanted a family business,
sure.
and him working with me has been great, even though we see things a lot differently sometimes. But so he's been with me a lot, and then at that age 6, 7, 8, you couldn't separate us, man.
Right.
We were together all the time. So he grew up
Buddies.
like a Gen
Yeah,
Z
yeah,
there in
yeah.
those areas. And
Yeah.
then he got to his teenage years and I didn't see him for a little while
Right.
and then he came back. So,
That's cool.
yeah, I try to give him those experiences. And he grew up in the martial arts. We had a dojo since he was 3, and then I quit doing it. I don't even remember when, but
Right.
he grew up in a martial art atmosphere and getting, fighting every night.
Very
And you
cool.
wouldn't think that about him now. You would never think about he's a tough kid. And he did a lot of that. If you listen to some of my old school guys that I used to train, they'll tell you we did stupid stuff, like,
Sure.
beat each other with wood and things. So he went through some of that. So he had some really, I think, some good experiences there. But yeah, the car thing is not his thing. So we'll see. Yeah, he's on his own path.
Yeah. You know what's cool? The older I get, the more I like to read,
Yeah,
and the more I appreciate being able to write, and the more I'm a word nerd, which is kind of cool. you know?
Yeah, it's good. I love. I don't have as much time as I'd like to just sit down and read books, which
Yeah.
I have several, but
Right, right.
and that's just some. I have much more at home, but
I think I read a lot. We talked about this earlier. I think attention span is shortened for a
yeah,
lot of reasons in life with social media and technology and everything. But um, I read a lot of articles.
yeah,
I've
absolutely.
become very much more aware of politics and world events, I
Yeah,
think, in the last 15 years
yeah,
than ever before for me.
yeah. We were talking about that earlier. I feel like I'm much more aware of what's going on in the world. Not completely detailed, just because I listen to a lot of podcasts. I
Right.
mean, a lot. And then I listen to books on tape too, or not tape anymore,
Mm.
whatever you call them now.
When's the last time you had a tape?
Yeah, it's
20 years?
I don't even
25 years?
know. Yeah, and I have a friend that I work with, he does our painting. He's stuck in the late 80s, early
Yeah.
90s, He still has cassettes. Hell, he might even have an 8-track somewhere. He is a car nerd. It's Camaro, and it's gotta be this Camaro, and,
Yeah.
Gregors, and, he just completely will not
Still have a mullet?
assimilate. No, he has the ponytail. He has the multiple ponytail guy,
Got it.
and he's getting thinner every year. I love him to death, but
Well,
yeah, he will not assimilate to he still even though he does text, he still uses whatever that alphabet where you have to tap
yeah,
it
yeah.
3 times, he's a weird fella.
Got a
Yeah.
Nokia?
Tristan and
Get a
him,
Nokia?
they get along, they're friends, which is weird, but they're completely different people. I mean, so
Yeah, but he's probably a good soul.
yeah, he's a good soul. He grew up and just was thrown to the wolves,
Yeah.
mom just and then he just kind of did his own thing. He's never really been married but he's at my house every Christmas, that's
Right.
that's where we're at. He's a good
That's cool.
yeah.
That's good.
There's a few people you can really count on, when you really need them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I always try to be that person for friends. I have a
Sure.
really good friend, a mutual acquaintance of ours,
Yeah.
Jeff Hayden. I talk about him quite a
Yeah.
bit because
I know
he's
Jeff.
he's always been there for me.
Yep.
And Jeff said, "Yeah, I was telling somebody about you the other night." And he says, "If you ever need a body buried, Joe's the guy to call." I was like, "I don't know if I'm taking that as a compliment, but yeah, I want to
So
be
that,
I want to be there for you."
for a man, that might be the highest
Yeah,
praise that you could
right.
have. Somebody
Maybe.
ride or die, like, hey,
Yeah,
it's 2 a.m. and I'm having a moment, and
yeah,
I need another male that only understands what I'm going through.
yeah. Right.
That's you got to have that person to call.
Yeah, I went through a little phase here when my wife started streaming, so gaming, and it's something that you kind of have to get your mind around.
Right.
It's not something; it's a new thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, "What do you want to do? You keep your clothes on." And she's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And so she streams games and people watch it. And I research things pretty much a lot when I get in. So I realized, oh, it's not necessarily just crisscross applesauce, short shorts,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
stuff like that. These people, it's the new nightclub. It's not really the game, but it's that side chat. Everybody's talking to each other, and probably part of it's part of COVID.
Right.
So I was like, "Yeah, that's fine." And she makes a little bit of money at it, but that first 2 or 3 weeks, when that first guy goes, "Oh, you have beautiful eyes," I'm like, "Wait a minute, mother what?" Because when we grew up, you don't say things like because
Right.
we're in,
Yeah.
you're gonna have consequences.
Sure.
And I went through 2 really hard weeks with her and that.
Yeah.
It was a struggle, and to the point where I kinda just had to stay away from it and just
Yeah.
say, I trust because my mind is
Yeah.
if he'll say that there, then what's he messaging her? And then,
Right.
well, oh, what's she and your mind gets away from you,
Sure.
and the next thing you know, so
I mean, let's just lay it out. The truth is, as a man, we don't control that.
mm-mm,
Women can get as much or as little attention as they want,
absolutely.
and you got to trust the partner you're with. The
Yeah.
person you're with has got to you've got to know they're for you. Um,
Yeah.
but women have it. Just look at dating apps, right?
Mm,
If a woman puts her profile out, they're going to get 3,000 DMs about
right.
opportunities. Guy puts, I feel like I'm, decently attractive man.
Right.
You are everybody.
And
But
got
if you put your profile out, get four.
yeah, right.
Maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't, God,
Definitely a
I'd
different
never wanted
world.
to date at this age. Isn't that crazy? It'd be
Man,
brutal.
I'm actually real fortunate. My wife, she's never given me any reason to even consider,
There you go.
you know,
Yeah.
even though I had that little spout of
Yeah.
my own, that was more me than her.
Yeah.
So, I'm
So,
very lucky
so
there.
would you take it like I guess I would change my mindset. I just beat my chest a little bit. They want what I have,
Yeah,
and you can't have it,
so that's funny you
right?
say that. We started dating. I've pretty much always been married.
Mm,
Tristan's mom and I we were very young when we got together, and we're still really good friends. And his mom and I, and we talk,
great.
and it was a little touchy at first because my wife was so much younger than me. She's 20 years younger than me, and I started dating her when she was 19. So that was a weird time.
Sure.
But now my current wife, and Tristan's mom, they go Christmas shopping together. And I was fortunate. Another thing, there's some misfortune in my life, but those things like that. I have so many friends that have just the opposite, man. They use the kids. And I
It's
told
unfortunate.
Shelby when we were just in the beginning, I said, this is the way it's going to be, or not. It's just not. And can't have my kids sit at their own kitchen table and feel bad about saying something about their mom.
Right.
You know, they can't have everybody they love hate each other. You know what I mean? So I said, if we can't do that, then
It's toxic.
it's just not for me.
Yeah.
And I've been so there's been a few things, but so fortunate. There,
Good.
it's been really
Good
lucky.
on you.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know how I got off on that tangent,
Nah,
but
we just talking. We're
what I
just
mean,
talking.
yeah, that's what
So
we
let's go
do.
back. So bourbon. Yeah, we were talking about bourbon.
Yeah.
So bourbon. One of my good friends when I was a kid living in E-town, his dad was a distiller. So I got exposed to bourbon very early on. We'd go climb through the rick houses on a summer day.
Yeah.
There's no internet. There was very little TV. There was again, this is going way back, right? There were, you know, we were poor. We didn't have any money, and he had access to something cool, which was climbing through the brick houses, and we'd thieve whiskey. And back then, thieving whiskey doesn't mean you're stealing it. There's this tool called a thieve that goes down into the hole in the bourbon barrel, and you could pull out bourbon,
Yeah.
by suction. It's pretty cool. So, you were tasting bourbon at 12, 13, 14 years old, which is way too early, but
Probably hitting you pretty good
you
then.
taste it, you wouldn't get drunk on it.
Yeah.
That was the rule. And so, anyway, so I got exposed to bourbon very early on and just always loved it. And it's a very quintessential Kentucky thing. And as I grew older, I collected more bourbon. I just thought it was cool that there were different shapes of bottles and different,
Yeah.
things. And then it became, a monetary thing. I could flip bourbon and make 800 bucks or whatever it is. There's a market for it. There's a collector's market for it. And then I had to divest a little bit of it right before COVID. We talked about that, and we had a collector from Chicago that reached out to me. I got juiced in on the online community, um, and I became fairly well known for the bourbon collection I had in that community. And I had a collector in Chicago reach out to me. I was moving to Raleigh, North Carolina, to start another window world, and reached out to me and made me an offer I couldn't refuse and took a ton of my bourbon for a large sum of money,
Mm.
very large sum of money. And I gave up most of my collection. And today I still have an amazing collection and could never drink it all in my
Yeah.
lifetime. But I just really enjoy, you know, between wine and bourbon, occasionally having, a nice cocktail. And you and I talked about the perfect way to drink bourbon in the summertime, I believe, is tall glass of ice, muddle some lemon or lime in it, little either diet ginger ale or regular ginger ale if you like it, and a shot of bourbon. And man, it is an amazing summer drink. It's very refreshing.
Yeah.
Yeah, very refreshing. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, so that was my bourbon thing is very interesting to a lot of people because it's something else, we talked about earlier. Once you get hyper focused on something, you learn as much as you can about the history of bourbon and how before there were no rules in Kentucky about bourbon. And people used to make just whatever.
Right.
I mean, it would be poison in some instances. They regulated it, taxed it, as the government likes to do for all things.
Yes. Yeah.
And they would float it from, you know, uh, through the river system all the way down to New Orleans and sell it,
Wow.
and on rafts, and just crazy stories about how it came over from Virginia to
Yeah.
Kentucky, very rye heavy, and Kentucky turned it into what we know as bourbon today. Um, and it's got a great lore and got a lot like barbecue, right? And
Yeah.
and we kind of talked about my history with barbecue earlier.
Yeah. I'd
Um,
like to get into that. But one thing I would like to ask on the bourbon thing,
yeah,
is it just the interest in the actual collecting part of it combined with the monetary part of it? Or do you, like for me, I will drink a couple of shots of bourbon in the evening when I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
I can't drink a lot as much as I used to be, and I don't drink on a rare occasion because I don't know what something stomach or something. I don't know. It makes me feel really really bad. I
Sure.
never had that problem before, but I'll have about like what you poured there in the evening just to kind of.
Yep.
Do you drink it for that too? Do you get or
I
is
think there's a medicinal value to bourbon.
yeah
I believe that. Whether it's anxiety ridden or your daily stresses or whatever it is, I think there's a medicinal value to bourbon. I think there's I think it's a good conversational piece. You
mm,
know, there's a lot of business done over bourbon. And matter of fact, in some cultures, in Japanese cultures, you can't do business if you don't drink.
right
That's the way it's done.
yeah
And they take it a little bit more extreme.
sure
If you know the stories of some of them,
yeah
where you're not a good businessman if you can't handle your liquor and you have to outdrink your partner.
yeah
That's a little crazy.
I get that
But
yeah
for bourbon, for me, is it's medicinal. It's part of my history. It's a part of the lore of Kentucky, which is where I'm from, which is what I love is the bluegrass state. I'll always be a big proponent of Kentucky. Um, and then on top of it, I think that you get to know somebody over a glass of bourbon, what they like, what they don't like, what we're doing here today.
right
Um, some people love it, some people don't, and that's fine too. It's kind of part of my DNA. But yeah, I think there's several benefits to bourbon. It generates revenue for the state.
yeah
Again, lots of business has been done over bourbon. It's got a lot of value in my mind.
I think I like the idea of bourbon for Kentucky because it does give it its own uniqueness,
Hmm. Yes.
and I think people are finding that Kentucky. I've had so many times I've heard people say, "Yeah, I had friends in from wherever," and they're like, "Oh, you guys have internet here?" They're having such a misunderstanding of what Kentucky is, and the world is small now.
It's so small.
Everybody, it's not like there's anywhere that there's a limited of access. So, um, I did at one time say, as far as Paducah, I love quilts. My grandmother, I loved quilts that she gave me, But I said, I wish we were a little bit more famous for something besides quilts. I get it, but why don't we? Maybe a bourbon, something like would be pretty cool
Hmm.
too. I don't know, but um,
Yeah, the purchase area is what I've learned, and again, I'm not from here.
mhm,
I came in the mid 2000s when I came to Paducah. Still part of Kentucky, obviously. I love it. But the Golden Triangle, which is Lexington,
oh,
Louisville,
yeah,
that area right there. It's kind of where I grew up, and it gets a lot of the attention. I thought that's what Kentucky was.
right,
I didn't realize far eastern Kentucky,
a
like
lot different,
Harlan,
a lot
it's
different.
a whole different world out there until
Yeah,
I kind of got a little older and got to travel a little bit. Same way with Western Kentucky. I like the pace out here in Western Kentucky, though.
yeah,
Some good people. We got, the purchase area. They've given me a lot. They've made me the businessman I am. They've given me everything I have.
yeah,
But they're the most, I believe, one of the most philanthropic communities that you could possibly ask for. If there's a need, they fill it, and it's an amazing people out in Western Kentucky here.
yeah. I've seen that a lot over the years, and I have lived here most of my life, but I moved a lot when I was a kid. But Um, and I think that you're seeing even more now than you were before. There was a difference back when I was a kid. Being poor was normal,
Hmm.
for me, and for this area. I mean, you always had, I can remember a certain group of people that had the big house and they had, you can,
Sure,
but that was not everybody. I think our middle class would be considered pretty poor now. And I know that when I was like I grew up in a house where you went to the bathroom, you seen the dirt through the
sure.
floor. It was so much, but there was always people there as a community to help. No one ever went hungry.
No,
No one ever went hungry.
no.
You may not got to eat what you wanted, but there was always somebody there. Now I think the state and the government has taken that spot kind of to a point where people turn a blind eye to people in their community. Sometimes they think the government's got it. Let them handle it. I don't know if I'm on board with that, but
Yeah, no. I think there's a lot of government programs that have led us to believe that, right?
yeah,
um, the entitlement programs, the SNAP, the this, the that. We pay our taxes. I pay one of the highest tax rates there are because I'm successful. And
yeah,
finally in my life, I've made it to where, I have some security.
Yeah.
Not rich by any means. I don't tend to be that. I'm very comfortable. And so I pay, a higher tax rate, and I don't mind paying taxes. I I mind how they use my tax
Right.
dollars. I
Yeah.
think it's my, we can. I don't want to go off on
I mean, we could
politics
get
necessarily,
way
but
off there. Yeah.
we can get
No,
way
I,
off.
I agree with you 100% too. I can't stand how much waste there is
Hmm.
and how, and sometimes how the government treats, small business. I've had some really bad experiences recently. And but yeah, that's a definitely another discussion. So let's move into this. So the cigars.
Right.
That's another thing you kind of have an interest in, and yeah, I've kind of been interested in it too. But again, it seems like there is so much there,
Yeah.
and you start talking about it, and you quickly realize, oh, I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I still have no idea. I like what I like.
Yeah,
I'm not a huge cigar guy by any means. I've got introduced over the last 10 years to cigars with bourbon and different cigars. And, I like the little short, stubby, flavorful cigars. I don't know as much about cigars as I know about bourbon.
yeah,
I'll be the first to say that. But I do like, I know there's again, with bourbon, as there's cigars, everything in moderation, right? There's some people think there's a lot of health, with tobacco, another Kentucky thing,
yeah,
big tobacco state, not as big as maybe North Carolina. I think might be a little bigger. I'm not sure, but it's a very geocentric thing.
mhm,
Tobacco, bourbon. So I partake in it, but try to do it on a smaller level, 5 to 6 sticks. Um, once a month,
yeah.
maybe something like that.
Do you
Some months I don't.
do you pair bourbon and different types of cigars? Is that like it's like
I try. I'm not as good as, like I said, some other people, but I think it I think it brings out the notes in the bourbon. Again, I'm not drinking bourbon to get drunk.
right? No,
I want to taste it. I want to bring out notes. Same way with wine we talked about earlier, like a good chocolate cake
yeah.
with
You were talking about that.
strawberries on a good either Bordeaux or Cab makes it pairs. Your
Yeah,
taste buds explode in your mouth with it. And that's the type of thing, I guess, when you get a little older, you savor those experiences.
yeah,
You want experiences. I can make more money tomorrow, and I don't want to say that flippantly because not everybody's in the same situation. But what I can't make tomorrow is replace this experience today.
right,
That's why I agreed to come on your show. I've never been on a podcast.
right. Well, that's great.
I
I'm
wanted to
glad.
do this to memorialize, a lot of things and talk to you about kind of, it's not easy talking about your own life.
Yeah,
But this is kind of a challenge for me, so that's why I want to do it. Same way with, I want to experience, the world. I want to go to Asia. I want to do this. I want to do that. If all things possible, not all of them are, but I can still dream about it,
sure.
right? I can still in my mind go there, and I can read all I want to read about Thailand or Mongolia or wherever I want to go to.
Yeah,
When you're talking about you're writing books, that's the beautiful thing about books and articles. It allows you to dream and think about those type
yeah,
places. But back to kind of what your question was. I'm not as versed on cigars as some people. Some people in my circle love them. They know everything there is about a cigar. I like what I like, and a lot of times it's the lighter, more blonde cigars that are shorter because
hmm
I'm not going to be able to smoke one of those big
big
boys. Yeah,
stogie. Yeah.
yeah, it's not me. So you got to know what you like and what you don't like.
Yeah, as far as my knowledge of cigars, it would be that I don't mind the smell of a cigar in the room, and I like a pipe. My grandfather used to smoke
Yes,
pipe. I used to, so I never bothered me. I just can't handle it. And
cigar,
people will judge you
cigarettes.
for that. They'll be,
Uh,
if you're like, because if we had 3 or 4 guys in here smoking in this room, I
yeah,
couldn't handle it. And part of it's allergies, and I think that
sure.
comes back to like what we talked about being in with it with you always. But
And that's why I asked, and you were like, "Cool," and I was like,
yeah,
"Sure,
no,
yeah, all
absolutely, and I
good,
was glad
yeah."
to have it
I think it's a
because
good
it
conversational
is
piece, like,
absolutely a
you
good
know.
conversation, yeah, and it
Um,
pairs well. I did have I does it have that same, investment quality, monetary? Are there certain ones you can buy and man, what it kinda shelf life? I mean, do these things last?
you've got to care for it.
Like a humidor and all
Yeah,
that, yeah.
yeah, humidor. You got to keep it at a certain, humidity level, pH level, all those things. I don't pretend to know. That's probably why I'm not into uh, cigars as much. There's a lot more maintenance with a cigar than there is bourbon.
Yeah,
Bourbon's on the bottle on the back shelf, and you keep it. room temperature, you're good.
Yeah,
And I'll get to it when I get to it. Cigars are a little different animal. You got to care for it. So, if you're into cigars, there's a lot more to it, and
yeah,
you invest a lot more for it.
yeah,
So, but to monetary value, I don't know. There's probably some really expensive cigars out there.
yeah. I didn't know
Here's the
maybe.
funny thing about commodities, right? In business in general, it's only worth what somebody will pay for it, and
Yeah,
the rarer it is, the more somebody will pay for it. So I'm
right.
sure there's some $10,000 cigars out there. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting to think
That
about.
might be crazy.
I hate that about myself, and I guess it's just a place I'm at. I can't really enjoy something because I'm always trying to think of, okay, can we shift this and make some money? I don't
Yeah,
want to be that guy,
no,
always. I want to, like you said, I want to just have some experiences and things that I can enjoy. And the podcast is the only thing that I've done. And people give me flack over this. They're like, "Well, you could be working on car. Why you're behind and you're gonna do?" I'm like, dude, I enjoy this, and if I make no money at it, I'm fine. I don't.
yeah,
And this studio that they're putting in here, I don't know if that'll work or not. But if it
yeah,
doesn't, I can put this anywhere and do
yeah,
it. And people, and I know a lot of different people, and I really enjoy talking to them. I like and talking to you about your past and some of the connections that I can put together in that's something I like to do.
yeah. But there's
But
value in that. I
I'm
don't think everything has to be monetary,
no,
right?
there's a huge value there. It's a stress reliever,
Yeah,
and I get away from for a few minutes. I do sit there and think, okay, when this is over, what am I going to have to deal with? Um, but if I don't make, and it's not about money, and if I thought that making money at it was going to change how I feel about it or how I do it, I wouldn't even try.
sure.
So, but if it could make enough money that I could let go of some of my other things,
I think everybody needs some negative EV,
hmm
expected value,
yeah,
hobbies that that fulfill you in other ways.
sure, yeah,
Um, people have things they do all the time that might not monetarily make them any money, but you know,
peace, yeah,
spiritually,
yeah,
um, soulfully, it fulfills them. I
yeah,
think that's important too.
absolutely. I
I
need
think
to
I think
reconnect to
that's where a
that.
lot of people miss life, right? Life is still about experiences.
100%.
About being scared. It's about testing who you are. It's
Yeah.
about, we talked about fishing, and we'll get more into that, I'm sure. But there's some interesting things with fishing that kind of test you.
Yeah.
I think emotionally and spiritually that are interesting.
Definitely there because like we talk about my son, he's a avid fisherman.
Hmm.
On the cigars though, I'm so my wife's a lot younger, so I told you earlier that all the old movies. I mean, she loves stir crazy, stuff like that. We grew up with because it's
Yeah,
new to her. But we sat and watch. I don't know how many times I've went through the entire series of Seinfeld. I watch it all the time. She watches it. I don't go through a day without using at least one quote from Seinfeld. And when we get this place done, Kramer will be hanging on the wall. Um, but she's seen Elaine smoking a cigar, and
right,
now she wants to do that so bad.
right.
She likes the idea of it. Do you know many women that are uh, smoke?
Yeah, no, there's a handful I've seen out there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's whatever you like, right?
yeah,
I
yeah.
think there's something innately sexy about smoking a cigar too.
Yeah. I definitely agree with you there because when Elaine done it, it. But
Yeah,
then when you see the cigarette, I'm not as much on that.
yeah,
Yeah. But I think it's just because of the way I was raised.
yeah,
Yeah. I, I don't know.
yeah. I'd say that's
I
probably right.
I think for me, growing up the way I did, I got a really negative look at, smoking from
Sure.
all the
Yeah.
way.
Strays to this to that. Yeah,
Yeah.
everything goes with it. Yeah,
Yeah. Ugh.
makes sense. And again, like I said, anything in moderation, right? So
Yeah.
if I literally maybe 6 to 8 cigars a year is probably what I smoke
Yeah.
personally. Um, you know,
Yeah.
it's moderation.
Cool. Yeah. I think she's had a few friends and they get the little ones at the gas station,
Little
just
cigarellos or
act
whatever
like
they
she
call them.
acts like
Yeah.
she's some kind of big boss.
Oh, good for her.
Yeah, she has fun. One thing about my wife, she'll always have fun. She finds a way.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So the barbecue though, this is a huge. I mean, we have some pretty big festivals here for barbecue.
Yeah, barbecue on the river.
hmm There and
Yeah.
barbecue has such a different. So when I went up north, I noticed that they did barbecue in crock pots up there. There's this one restaurant I went. I know it's funny. This one restaurant I went in, and the whole restaurant had these shelves all around the wall, and they had
So
multiple crock pots.
we're gonna call that
Okay, I'm not
stew.
going to say that's
We're gonna
barbecue.
say
Yeah,
that's
you're right.
stew,
You're
but
right. You're right. There is no barbecue involved.
yeah.
Yeah.
Barbecue is defined in my mind. It's very regional to your point. I'm sorry if I cut you off
No,
there.
not at all.
Very regional to your point. But barbecue is defined by fire, the protein, and breaking down that protein to, basically back in the day, they were cheap cuts of meat that they had to cook that way to break it down to where you could actually eat it, right?
Right.
Um, so when I see somebody that boils
Yeah, a
um,
piece of meat.
a piece of meat, or that's the chef coming out of me, I just go, oh, God,
Yeah,
that's that's terrible.
it is a cringe moment.
Or they they crock pot it. I'm like, yeah, you can do that, but that's not good.
Yeah.
So
Well, the smoke adds such
yeah,
a
and
part
they
of that.
they'll put additives, liquid smoke or
Sure,
whatever.
I hate liquid smoke.
It's
I can't
terrible.
stand it.
Uh,
So
but yeah, no barbecue. I got passionate about barbecue. I'd had it, I'd eaten it. It's a very, again, there's regional Kentucky barbecue that I grew up eating from time to time. We could never afford it when I was young, even though it was a cheaper cut. But we ate in.
yeah,
We
yeah,
very rarely ate out. Um, and as I got older, I got more interested in it again because I was a trained cook for a long time, or not quite a chef, is a different connotation, but um, I was training to be that, and I just didn't follow through with it. But um, became an opportunity to raise money for charity through barbecue, through my Window World connections, and we started probably in the late 2000s, so maybe it's like '09, 2010. I started really getting into barbecue, and then like anything else I've done, I just dove all the way
right.
in, watched and read and did everything I could to find out everything I could about it. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to compete. I'm a competitor by
Yeah,
nature. And so, I got what I needed to get to compete, and we entered some competitions. We entered the barbecue on the river here locally, and got really damn good at it. I
yeah,
mean, really good at a high level.
yeah.
So,
So, I've owned two restaurants. Of course, none of them were barbecue, and I've done ribs and I've done my own thing, and I can make some people pretty happy with what I do.
sure.
But for me, I'm very rarely get a barbecue that I really, really like. Most of the time, it's way too dry, unless they soak it with some kind of barbecue sauce.
Yeah.
I'm a weird guy. I'm not a big barbecue sauce person.
Right.
I like a hot sauce.
Yeah.
I like vinegar and pepper.
Yeah.
Um,
You and I are probably the same palate. I mean, when I was doing barbecue, one of my rules were we never sauce anything.
really,
We're
yeah,
going to serve the meat, and we've got sauce for you if you want it,
sure,
but
yeah.
let the meat speak for itself. Let the protein speak.
I will tell you this: the best barbecue that I can recall came from, and I don't know if you were here during this time, but there's a place over on Bridge Street, and the building's still there. It was called the Rib Cage.
Don't remember
It was the nastiest place you ever walked
that.
in. I mean, it was the type of place where you would set your plate on the table,
Mm,
and it would, yeah,
stick. Yeah.
they had the best damn ribs, man,
Yeah.
and they had a dry rib. It was just
Sure.
a
Memphis style.
yes, and
Yeah.
man, they were so
Yeah.
that I could eat all day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's what I mean by regional. As soon as you said dry rib, I knew exactly what you're talking about.
yeah,
I mean, Memphis style is one way. Carolina has their own. North Carolina has their own style. South Carolina has a mustard sauce and style where they mop their whole hog with vinegar, basically.
yeah,
Um, Kansas City has their own style. Memphis has their own style. And Texas, I'm a Kentucky boy, but Texas barbecue is the king of barbecues.
yeah,
They really are. They know their beef, is what they're known for. But I don't remember that place called the Rib
yeah.
Cage.
It was a long time ago. I'm
Yeah,
talking, yeah, but we would go there on lunch when I was working for a fellow.
yeah,
Man, it was the wood you use too, right?
yep,
Apple wood and stuff like.
yep,
I remember I had a apple tree. We took down, and every
yep.
guy around wanted that wood. You know.
Applewood with pork is probably the best combination, or
Mhm.
pecan wood, either way. You get really into different woods, different nuances, where you got your hog from. What'd your hog eat if you're doing pork barbecue? Um, what strain of hog was it? I mean, there's so many little intricacies with barbecue. That's what made it interesting. Plus, again, like bourbon, there's a lot of lore to it. There's a lot of stories with
Sure.
barbecue. So go ahead.
Started in like the Caribbean, didn't it?
It did. It's a very Caribbean thing. And then, it's very, there's some African influence. There's some Creole influence with it in there as well. And then, it just, in the South, especially, because a lot of those settlers settled in the South, they brought that style of cooking with them. But there was cheap cuts of meat that you could get. Back in the day, brisket, nobody wanted a brisket. Now it's the most expensive part of the cow
Right.
because people figured out, oh man, I love brisket done the right way.
Yeah.
Um, and so, cheap cuts of meat, and they learned very early on. The early settlers in the South learned that you could take a tough meat, tough protein, and slow and low cook it for long periods of time, and it would break down the collagens. Of course, they didn't know the science part of it back then. They just knew that they could break the meat down to the point where it would be moist and delicate, and um, and they could use every part of the animal, you know, for lack of a better way to say it, by doing it that way.
Yeah.
And so that's
It's
barbecue.
interesting to watch. And this is an odd thing, but and you see this in like roast when you're doing a roast and slow cooking a roast. You can see it tighten up,
Yep.
and it tightens up, tightens up,
Yep.
tightens up. Then all of a sudden, it just breaks
Relax.
whatever that
Yep.
is, and then that's when it gets to that
Yep.
point of
The best way to barbecue, the best way I can explain it to it is it's the science of protein, right? If you keep a heat at a consistent level, and that's the trick in barbecue, you keep a heat source at and it could be whatever wood to add flavor, but you keep a heat source at a consistent level. 225 is kind of the golden temperature for barbecue for a lot of reasons. But you've got an apex, right? You've got the meat temperature and you've got the fire temperature, and you're trying to meet that at an apex
yeah,
and get the perfect, um, combination of keeping those collagens and those meat cells relaxed and constant.
yeah, yeah.
And that's the best type of barbecue. Kind of nerdy, and
No,
I'm
that's
kind of nerdy
cool.
that way,
Yeah, I
but
mean,
you
I
know,
love that kind of stuff, and getting into that perfection, and you can't always get it. It's like painting cars. I always
mhm,
tell people that body men are closer to artists than they are mechanics.
100%.
Like you're doing
Yeah,
filler work, you don't. There's no torque. There's no exact right.
yep,
And in like painters, sometimes it turns out, sometimes it don't. I've got guys that've been doing 30 years and humidities, and they know
yeah,
everything, and
sure,
it's kind of like that
yeah,
too. And when you hit that one, you're not going to get
mhm,
it every single time. You're going
mhm,
to get close. You kind of got it. You can be consistent, but then there's that magic moment where
right,
you're like, you brought it all together.
yeah. And I had a magic moment we were talking about barbecue in the river earlier. We entered it, our team, Winter World team, we would shut down our office for a week.
I've seen you guys out there. Yeah.
And some people may or may not know this, but our team's name was Rib Daddies.
Yeah.
And the first year we failed miserably. We raised money for charity, but this wasn't good barbecue. It
Yeah.
wasn't good food. But we got better and we worked on it. And by the fifth year, we won a couple categories. So I wouldn't say we failed miserably. I would say it was under par for me what my
Right.
expectations were.
Yeah.
Um, but we tried hard, and my team of installers and salesmen and everybody that was part of my team, we would leave our families for the week, and they would come in and help, and we would be down here for 6 days straight, and excuse me, very little sleep, and we would get better, and the next batch would be better, and the next batch would be better, and then so we went in individual awards, and then on the fifth year, I think it was 2017, was our fifth year doing it at this barbecue competition. Everything came together.
Yeah.
The recipes came together. The sauce was on point. The teamwork was on point. The story was better. The whole hog killed it. We just had an amazing cook. And we won the grand champion
That's cool.
of barbecue on the river. Some of those guys have been out there 20 years and never won anything.
Yeah.
Worked their ass off, and just didn't win anything. And we conquered it in 5 years.
Yeah.
That was the last barbecue in the river I ever
You
did.
really,
Yeah,
I'm a little like that too.
yeah.
Yeah. Once you,
Slayed it.
yeah.
Slayed the dragon.
Yeah. And once you're there,
So,
it's like, okay, that's one thing I have with fishing. My son, he just freaking love them. My wife does too.
mhm.
They love to go, man. And on days like this, I'm like, there's just no way, dude. We're not going to go out there and stand, and they'll
So
go
hot.
out on the boat, on a pontoon. I'm too Irish, man. I'm hiding under the awning to keep the sun off me. Sometimes I'll even throw an empty hook out there. Just,
Yeah,
I mean, because I've caught a fish
right,
now. And I told him, I said, when you're ready, and I'll
right,
go fishing. But when
right.
you go fishing with a 9-year-old, you don't go fishing.
No,
You go there with them. But
it's
he's actually done it
a,
so much, he's pretty good on his
that's an
own.
opportunity for relationship
Yeah,
enhancement.
yeah. And
That's
I
what
do it
that
because he
is.
loves it, and I enjoy getting out. But
Right.
I told him, I said, when we're ready, when we get time, when we get to a point where we can go down to Florida, and
Yeah.
her mom has a house down there, We'll go down there. Now you'll get me out on a boat and do some deep sea fishing. I've not done that. I've not
You've
seen.
not been on the
No,
ocean.
I've been on the ocean. I've never
I mean,
went deep.
for
Yeah,
fishing,
fishing,
yeah,
and I've never did that. So that's a different challenge
it
for me. And
is.
I'm weird
It
like that.
is.
And once I get something
Mhm.
nailed down, I'm like, "No, I'll move. I'm ready to. Okay,
Yeah,
what's next? This is. I can't get no more excitement out of this because I
yep,
peaked here.
sure.
So that's a weird
I
thing.
still competed at other events. I moved, to kinda finish off that story. I, competed in Memphis.
Hmm.
That's barbecue central, right?
Right.
I won some awards, best sauce in the there was this competition, it's kinda funny, called the Big Pig Jig. It's down in Macon, Georgia. We won best sauce against some of the world's most famous, Myron Mixon, some of the grandmasters of barbecue. We beat their ass.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, it's not my gig. My full-time gig is my business,
Yeah.
and I focus on my business and my family. But that was, an ancillary, passion that I fell in love with, and I still do it personally.
Hmm.
I still cook, and, everybody that I cook for is like, "Okay, you've ruined it. There
Can't go
I can't
anywhere.
go anywhere."
Yeah.
To your point, a lot of these barbecue joints you go to, they'll hold barbecue for 24 or 36 hours.
Yeah.
It's a different it's a different experience when that meat sits for that long. Um, you've got to get it within the first 4 to 5 hours of smoking, a pork butt or a brisket or whatever. You need to, you need to consume it. Now you can cryovac it and cheat a little bit, and you were in this restaurant business. You could sous vide it later. You
Yeah.
could do some things to it
Bring it back.
to bring it back. But at the end of the day, there's nothing quite like that. And when you're running a barbecue restaurant, you've got it. It's a long cook time. And we had people look. I had people that would come up to the stall when we were serving, at 10 p.m. and be pissed off there was no ribs. And I'm like, lady, it only took 8 hours to cook those ribs, and we
Yeah.
can only par cook so many. We don't know,
Yeah.
there needs to be no waste. I'm sorry that, you didn't get your ribs. You should have got here earlier.
Yeah.
But they would be angry, and it's just always kind of chuckled. I'm like, you have no clue what we do.
Yeah.
You know
Right.
what it took. The brisket. We'd run out of brisket. It's 16 hours to cook a brisket.
That's nuts. Yeah.
It takes 23 hours plus to cook a whole hog.
Wow.
I don't think most people realize the effort and the commitment that it takes to do some. And I respect those guys that do it every day, that have barbecue joints that are highly acclaimed, that that go to work and produce great proteins every single day.
Yeah.
The Aaron Franklins of the world, that he probably doesn't cook as much as he used to because he's world famous now. But that craft barbecue, if you
Hmm.
will, that is just on the edge, inventive. The things they do with barbecue nowadays versus the science of it now versus older, the mid 2000s are just it's different, you know.
Yeah.
So,
I had some regenerative farmers in the other day
hmm
from Princeton. They raise grass fed beef and chickens and all that. And they move their cattle every day, and the same thing with their pigs. And they have these things called chicken tractors, which is just basically a big tent that they move the chickens around. So the chickens are moving all around, so it replenishes the ground.
right,
Um, and then they sell that, and you can actually order it, and they send it. And then they got another company that does the vegetables as well. And like a tomato is actually red.
that
So,
that's a thought.
but they did say that some of the meats are a lot more lean,
Yeah,
than what you normally get.
sure,
But they were talking to the point of, the world keeps growing, and we're over the food that we're supplying is, it's just continually getting less and less nutrient. It's because the ground it's been used so much that they're having that problem. And I do these little 1 minute. We'll do one for this podcast. It'll be really cool. I always start it and I can't figure, but then it always ends up pretty cool. These little 1 minute previews, and
shorts.
yeah,
Yeah,
people really like them, and I'm really proud of them. I did theirs, and I said maybe the answer to the big problems are we need to do small. And I can't remember exactly how we worded that, and that was basically them going back to community based. They're very much into the community and selling to the community
hmm
and growing things locally. And I think maybe we're going to have to maybe take a look at some things like that too. Just the knowledge of being able to take a piece of meat, and maybe even a lower quality piece of meat,
right.
and using it, um, I think that that's a time that's actually maybe right around the corner where we're going to have to start doing that because you're seeing an hour, 2 hours in, you know? Okay, thank you. You're seeing, this nutrient deficient food just completely. Mm. I think we're going to have to come back to something like that where
Do
people
you
actually
think
have to understand what they're consuming.
do you think that's the soil, or do you think that's the hydration and the rain coming down and overbuilding of overbuilding of societies?
Yeah, so I'm gonna say they were very cautious. They don't want to, they do their thing and they're not really wanting to step on all the toes.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm not speaking for them. This is
No, right.
me.
I'm
Well,
asking you
yeah,
what
so
your
this
opinion
is
is.
100% me,
Right.
and I'm not going to be overly
Yeah.
cautious because the first trailer I put together for them was a yin yang. It was
Right.
the corporate farm sludge, versus the hometown thing, and I
Sure.
had to redo that.
Right.
Um, but yeah, you're seeing farmland repurposed over and over and over, and they're using chemicals or using fertilizers to make that happen. So when you go and you buy
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
McDonald's and you get a tomato and it looks pale pink. I go to my wife's grandparents, they give me tomatoes and they're as red as that cup over there.
Right.
And that's where you're getting that nutrients. The ground, and there even Joe Rogan has had several regenerative farm people on.
Shout out Joe Rogan.
Yeah, actually, yeah, he watches all the time. And they'll show that I wish I can remember the name of the farm he has there, but they show the watershed
Yeah.
from his and the other, and this is sewage, and then
Yeah.
his is clean. It's
Yeah.
the way they do it. Is that something we're going to be able to just jump into and say, okay, we're going to feed everybody like that? No, because we've already got ourselves in this bind. It's going to have to be some rethinking, some reprocessing.
I think part of the solution to that, and if I'm honest, is having companies to a higher standard that serve food to our people.
Yeah,
I think that's got to be a piece of it. And again, I don't want to get super political, but there's a movement going on right now that are trying is trying to do that. Um, you know, and McDonald's is a big problem.
yeah,
How they farm, how they do their potatoes, how they do their proteins. It's 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 a big business.
yeah.
And I don't think that they have our best interest at heart.
Well, no, I don't
It's
think
all
so.
about the dollar,
Yeah,
you know. And
and I
so,
see, so they're also looking at, I don't know, we looked up how many chickens a day in the United States. It's the normal. I mean, it's insane. You can't
yeah,
even fathom it. And cattle as
uh,
well.
right,
Um, and they're also, not only do they look at, are we providing food at a responsible level to the consumer, but are we being responsible good stewards of the animal and the
right,
land?
sure,
Because that land can only reproduce things so many times over generations,
right.
and it's going to deplete as the generations go on.
And I didn't see the episode. Did they talk anything about back in the day? And I know this might be true. I might be speaking sideways, but they used to do different crop rotations that would
Yes.
help replenish the soil.
Yes.
But if you're a big producer of tomatoes, you're going to go 4 cycles in a row with
Yeah.
tomatoes because you have a limited supply of land. Did they kind of hit on
Yeah,
that?
that's where
Yeah,
they were,
yeah,
and so you're just throwing different chemicals at the
sure,
ground to make it produce something,
yeah.
and it complete.
It's unfortunate.
It makes you really think, and
Yeah.
it
And
goes back to the food pyramid back in, and this is another thing Rogan talks about in the 50s. Do you know who actually financed them to getting that food pyramid together?
it's got to be General Mills or some
Sugar
conglomerate.
companies,
Yeah.
the sugar
Yeah,
companies wanted.
breakfast cereal is
Yeah.
not part of the food
Yeah,
pyramid. They'll
well, the
tell you it is,
bread,
but
yeah, so,
yeah,
I think it was 3 major companies that kinda changed the way we look at
right.
food back then, and it
Yeah,
was easy,
yeah.
and,
It was a
yeah.
marketing program
Yeah, well, exactly,
that
yeah,
you can get conspiracy theory based, but I read a lot about this
yeah,
actually, and it was a marketing program to get people to eat more. It was the dawn of the '50s. TV, they were force feeding consumers their product,
yeah.
and people could be swayed pretty easily back then.
Yeah, it's funny too because we got 2 guys owning the businesses talking about that, but there has to be a certain amount of responsibility
I
and
agree.
less
I agree.
deception. The Coca-Cola, the red, actually came because they were having a drop in sales in the winter, so they made it look like red, the red of Santa. That's how they,
Hmm.
and then so you seen that whole
Yeah.
thing where they did that. So Yeah, there's a lot of things. There's another show out there. It's a documentary, and it talks about how they mind trick you. So Amazon, they have a whole teams of people who watch their advertising, and they got shades of blue. They monitor those shades of blue and see which one. That's how refined their marketing is.
Yep,
Which one people
yep.
respond to the most.
Once you get deep into business, you don't understand how ruthless these people are until you understand it.
Mhm.
How um, focus groups. I mean, they spend tons of money on focus groups. Bring these people and give them $100 for the day, and they take group after group after group and just spitball stuff off the wall.
Yeah,
Um, it's all about the shareholder profits, the responsibility of um, business owners in general, big conglomerates. I'm speaking of not
sure.
small mom and pop shops because
Right.
I feel like I'm a small mom and pop shop. I mean, I feel like we're the largest remodeler in the country, but it's fragmented, right? We
Sure.
the individual owners, et cetera. Um, we have a responsibility to take care of our customers, but big conglomerates like a McDonald's, like Amazon, like what
Walmart.
Walmart, man, it kind of goes a little sideways, right? It's about returning revenue per share to the board members,
Yeah.
to the investors.
One of the thing about investors too is they don't want to see the same thing next year. They want to see increases in
Hmm.
profits. So how do you do that when you start getting to such a high level? How do you eke out another
Sure.
profitable or more profitable year? They want to see gains,
Yep.
which is really hard to pull
Yeah,
off.
it's not easy.
No, and business as a whole, man, it's so hard.
Well, especially when you get taxed 42 cents plus out of every dollar that you make.
Yeah, and then
Again, we could go down that road. We probably don't need to, but
no, well,
it's all I can say. I'm gonna leave you with one thought. I'm gonna leave the viewers with one thought. We overturned the country for 2 cents on tea.
yes,
So
yeah,
there's that.
yeah,
But
and
I digress.
yeah. It's Yeah, I have my own issues with government. Like I said, I had a recent issue that pretty close bankrupted me, all
Mm,
based on a government program that I got on board with, and and it even now that things have been settled, I still am $250,000 worse shape than I was prior to this deal. So yeah, it's frustrating. Yeah, you think that what is it? Reagan used to say, the words you want to never hear or most be afraid of is "We're the government. We're here
we're
to
here to
help."
help.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I've heard
I've
that
heard that. Yeah.
myself. So,
Yeah, you're not
well,
probably wrong. I mean, I think, and we'll close that because again, I don't want to alienate some of your viewers with my views.
yeah,
But I think that's why disruptors in politics are powerful because people are tired. People are, it's tough. The world's
it
tough.
is. Is it?
I know people just recently are getting $600+ in energy bills,
Yeah,
$700 energy bills. That's crazy. People were getting taxed to death. There's a breaking point, and I think we're getting close to it. I think America as a whole is kind of re-energized to reset the bar, and we'll see where it goes. But it's interesting what's going on right now in our country.
yeah. So I brought some what would be considered for this area controversial people on.
Yeah,
And people were like, I can't believe you had, well, just for instance, a Democrat. Right now, Democrats in this area are, and I have my own feelings. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of things I don't agree
sure.
with.
Yeah.
So my thing to them would be, and is I'm not afraid to hear what he has to
No,
say. And I think both sides need to be able to do that.
no,
It's so easy for the left to judge the right, and vice versa, because they don't ever really listen to each other. They just want to show the other one they're wrong.
all right.
And my example of this was I listened to Gavin Newsom just recently on a podcast, which I don't agree with anything he's in the things that I knew of that he had done and what he's done to the California. Um, but I listened to it because I'm not afraid of what he has to say for one
Sure.
thing. And there were some points in there where it kind of made me realize, oh, there's more to this than what he was being. There's a reason, and I would just because we hit politics real quick, I would just encourage people to make sure you don't just condemn something. You listen, and don't be afraid to listen to it. And if you are afraid to listen to it, then maybe you need to reflect yourself. Maybe you're scared that they're going to change your mind.
I think there's a huge value to healthy discord. I think you need to have discussions with people, be honest, look them in the eye, agree with them when you agree with them, disagree when you disagree. But I think you need to respect each other and understand where they're coming from because their experience, which is the whole show, right? Basically, your show is about
Yeah,
experiences
exactly.
and how did you become, great at what you do or good at what you do. His experience is not your experience,
Yeah.
and I think there's value in that. And again, I'm with you. Talking about Gavin Newsom, a little, and you may or may not know this. He makes it. He owns a winery
Yes.
called
Yeah.
Plump Jack that is absolutely amazing
He talked
wine.
about that on that
So,
podcast. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a fun fact. I buy his wine. I don't buy his politics.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but
He definitely made,
funny.
in my opinion, some missteps. But
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's
So
good stuff.
yeah, politics can really be a issue, though.
It,
People are.
yeah, it's a hotbed of
Yeah.
of things. I think you know, how do you control population? You divide them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's something to that.
The problem
Um,
with and that's my whole thing is unity. We got to
yeah,
find some way
look,
to unify. We can't do it all. One group can't do it by
yeah,
themselves. We have to unify, and the rest of the world's
yeah.
watching. They know. They see weakness.
I have a kind of I don't care what color you are, what religion you are, what background you have, what your politics are. Are you a good person? That's how I judge
Yeah.
you. Are you a
Yeah.
good person? You'll show me pretty quickly. You'll tell me who you are. It's just up to me to listen.
I always kind of look at it too. We have a big heavy weight here that needs to be lifted. And if all three of us were completely different in
Hmm.
mindset, I wouldn't
Right,
care. I would say, hey, help me pick this up.
right,
You know what I mean? And that's where we're at. We get all these little
right,
things in the way of progress.
right. There's two things we could do in politics to solve everything. I'm going to put this. It might be controversial.
Yeah, that's good. Go
I don't
for it.
care.
Yeah, we like controversy a
Um,
bit.
Term limits
Absolutely.
and get rid of all the lobbyists. If you did those two things, politics would be completely different today than they are.
Yeah. Talk about controversial. I had someone on that spoke to that and told me some things that I had no idea about how these lobbyists work and how some of the money that's given to a state,
Yep.
it comes from it's supposed to be from the state, but because of the way they
Right.
shift it around
Yeah.
to other
Sure.
politicians, it comes in 90% of it from
Yep.
another state
Yeah.
with different values. Yeah, it's crazy
Yep.
how they let that stuff go.
Yeah.
But at some
It's
point,
a dirty game.
yeah, and there's no right answer. There's no
No,
perfectly right
there's
answer.
not. And
Especially
look,
those
it's
tough
not going to be
questions.
solved in my lifetime,
No,
but
no, but we gotta try. I mean, we gotta try to make it better.
I think we talked about generations earlier. I think Gen Z has an amazing opportunity. Alpha has an amazing opportunity to reset the board across the board.
Yeah,
But we've got to come together to your point, and we've got to tell. Listen, at the end of the day, what people don't realize is politicians, they work for us. 100% my tax dollars fund everything they do on top of their little lobbyists, et cetera. But they work for us. If we keep voting them in,
sure. We
you know
hire a salesperson.
we
That's
do.
what it is.
Yeah,
They're there to sell
for
our
sure.
ideas,
Yep.
and then how that ends up.
Yep. I think the next section of my life, I might want to do some public service.
I like
Honestly.
I like the idea of that, but
Yeah, there's
yeah,
it's that's right. It's an idea. I
yeah.
don't know that it'll happen for me, but um
I think it has to be someone who's not in a position of building. Like a person like you or
sure.
somebody who's made a certain, you're like you said, you're comfortable in your say. You can so therefore you don't have to. A lot of times when young politicians come in, they have a lot of good ideas, and I've had some people on the podcast talk about this. They get in and they're like, okay, I want to accomplish this. Well, we'll help you accomplish this if you'll do this.
Right.
And there's like, well, if I do that, I get what I want, and then
Hmm.
this goes away. Well, they don't understand that
Sure.
because you did that, there's always going to be people coming back,
Yeah.
and that's how they shift ideas and
In
stuff.
one capacity, I don't know how I could help, but I would love to help. Either local government, state government, I don't know, but
Yeah,
and who knows? Maybe I just want to go
it's
sell pizza on a beach somewhere. I don't
maybe.
know.
Yeah,
Who
definitely.
knows?
It's weird when you get to a certain age. I start thinking I got burned really bad when I was younger,
Oh wow.
really bad. Yeah, a radiator blew up on me on the interstate and hit me here in third-degree burns, and it was the most difficult physical thing I ever went through. There's some emotional and mental things I went through though, where I would trade and did that for any time, but
Hmm.
physically, because it put me down, and I'm not that guy. It put me down for 3 weeks, and it got in my head.
Sure.
I couldn't. I could. It was really hard to move. And Tristan can. I had bags of blisters. It was a really tough time. Um,
Yeah.
So now I look and I'm like, man, I think of children. I'm like, how a burn kid, how their mind and
Yeah,
how mine as an adult was.
yeah,
I want to I want to do some volunteer work like that. I
be
really
great,
look. It's just so hard. You're just so
be great.
stuck in. But something maybe.
You get caught up in your daily life. It's not
Yeah,
easy to
yeah.
give back. We have a huge philanthropy. We have a twofold. We with Window World, we have a program called Window World Cares,
Mm,
and we donate and help work St. Jude.
that's awesome. Yeah.
So if you don't know about St. Jude in Memphis, it's an amazing, amazing place. We've raised over $3 million to date, well north of $3 million. I can't even remember the number last, but we've raised enough to run St. Jude for multiple days, which is an amazing accomplishment. But our crew goes down every year, and we throw on a Christmas party for the kids at St. Jude.
That's cool.
So that's one thing we do. Um, Corporate office has a plane, and they fly wounded warriors to Walter Reed in different places around the country. All the different missions to do that. A lot of people don't realize if you missing a limb, you've got to go through security. They make you disassemble yourself,
Mm,
and so we've done things like that. And then back to you talking about burn victims as a kid. I went through that. We talked about the bus wreck earlier.
yeah.
I've got a couple friends, Bubba, that he ended up going to play football at the University of Kentucky. He had, I think, and Bubba, if you're out there, I don't know the number, but I heard it was over 70% of your body you got burned, and that's kid's resilient. He's a grown man now. He's very professional, accomplished in his industry, and lives in Lexington still. Um, but yeah, that's tough, man.
Yeah.
That I can't imagine
Yeah.
what you go through, and you experience that. That's
Yeah.
absolutely,
Well, it's
uh,
it's just like I said, for me, some of the emotional and mental things you go through during your
yeah,
life, I'd take that burn over
yeah,
before I'd have to go through some of that. But
right. But we call him Bubba. His name is Dennis Harold.
Dennis
So
Harold,
I just
yeah,
want to make sure I get that
sure,
right. Yeah. So
yeah. So how about you tell me you got some, and I always creep everybody's Facebook a little bit before they come in. I seen
right.
some little ones in there and look
Yeah.
pretty new, some grandbabies and
Grandbabies. Yeah. So Labby and Weller. So Bourbon guy, they let me kind of throw out a name for the grandson, and his
uh,
name is Weller.
yeah,
Weller Bradshaw Wilson. So Weller's a famous bourbon, if you know it, but pretty interesting name. So we're actually getting ready to take a little family trip Saturday, actually. So again, I've been blessed enough. We're going to go down to the 30A, which is down out on the other side of Destin, and do a family trip next week. Just us in a house on the beach,
yeah,
and just you know
experience,
experience
yeah,
each
yeah, right,
other and be in each other's way and wake up and
yeah,
have coffee and do all those things. So that's going to be
that's
great.
great, yeah.
Yep. But yeah, I can't wait to see how they grow up.
So how long have you been married? Yeah.
So I'm not married currently.
Okay.
Yeah, not married currently. I got divorced. And
Someone on one of my posts spoke very highly of you. So,
oh,
yeah, I think, so you must be,
mm,
at least in a relationship.
I am.
Yeah,
Yeah. Stacy, we've been together for a while. Good while. Great, absolutely amazing person. Can't speak highly enough about her. She
yeah,
is my biggest cheerleader, and I
yeah.
think people need that in their lives.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. My wife, even when everyone else out there is like, "Why are you doing this,
Right.
man? Just what are you doing?" She's like, she's there
Yeah.
backing me up. I can't say that we tried working together at first. Yeah, not so much,
Yeah.
but,
I think you and I are probably more alike than we realize. I am
yeah.
not easy to work with.
I am not easy to work, especially if I'm really hard on my family.
Yes.
So Tristan, he works for me, and I would get this person and this person dropped the ball and that person dropped the ball, and I get so upset, and I'm just trying to keep my cool. And I can remember one day looking around for Tristan because I needed someone to yell at,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
he knew he's like
Yeah.
it won't be involved him at all. He bolts, you know.
No, it's way too easy to vent
It
to the
is,
people
and you
you love the
expect
most.
so much more from
Yeah.
them, you know.
It's not fair,
It's not at
and
all.
and you know
I
that,
know, and I've done better.
but it doesn't
I've
matter.
done better, but it's stressful, but yeah.
Yeah, no, no. Stacy made that comment. And I said not for public consumption, because I didn't want to let the cat out of the bag just yet. I literally was still trepidatious about coming on here, honestly.
Really?
Only not for what you do, but this is permanent.
Yes.
It's out there.
Yeah, that's what I tell
And then
people.
you get judged, and you're opening yourself up to a lot of criticism for, and
Just being you.
yeah, just being me, and having the views I have, and being, and there's an old adage, right? Say less, smile more.
Yeah.
Um, Very close friend of mine just said that recently, and was kind of hesitant about me being on here, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it just because it memorializes the time in my life where I'm at, and I get to enjoy topics that I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
So,
And I tell people, I mean, this episode's going to be out there for, and I say this to people that may be interested in advertising. I'm like, you never know how many people are going to look, a year from now and you'll see somebody, hey, man, I did a
yep,
podcast. So check it
yep,
out. Um, but I don't really pay attention to the comments because I'm really easily, and Joe Rogan, I took that advice from him. He's
yeah,
like, he doesn't read comments at all,
yeah,
because he says it'll get into your head. But we've not had, I mean, we're not big enough yet,
no,
maybe. You're going to get some hate just because people, I don't know, sometimes people hate to see people succeed. I love to see someone's success, even if it's in my
yeah,
own field and I'm doing it, or
yeah,
they're even beating me. I'm
yeah.
like, there's something about that I really enjoy.
Same.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
enjoy seeing people make it.
yeah.
But so many people,
What's the old adage? High tides lift all boats.
yeah, right,
How I feel like I've got to be your cheerleader, even if we're in the same industry. I'm going to try to beat you every chance I get,
absolutely,
but I'm going to cheer you on if you
yeah,
win. And,
absolutely.
and you know, to your point, that's why I still came on, because I could care less about the haters. It's just one of those things you got to consider.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
am I going to come across a
Same.
way that somebody might not like? Whatever.
Yeah, that was
You
me
know.
doing this. I'm thinking all the people I went to
Mhm.
high school with, they're gonna be like, "Why is he doing that? He's a dumbass."
Sure.
I all those weird
Yeah.
things go, and then you see your first time you're on, you're
Yeah.
like, "Oh God, I look like
Yeah.
shit," or sound my voice. Now I don't pay attention to it
You
at
you
all.
want to know what the kind of the inflection point for me to decide, because I dodged you for about 10 days.
Yeah, you kept me kind of
Yeah.
wondering. I was
Um.
like, "What does he think I'm wanting
Yeah.
here?"
No, nothing.
Yeah, I know.
It was just some introspective, thoughts of what kind of pushed me over the edge. I said, I've got to leave a legacy. My job now is to leave a legacy,
Mhm.
and this kind of could be part of it. My story,
Yeah,
the stories maybe my grandchildren haven't heard, that we haven't talked about yet, because I'm not promised tomorrow. So they don't get. You're not going to get all the stories, obviously, today,
no, and
but some cool ones nonetheless.
And on that subject, a lot of people I've had have already come back on, and I want that because we are growing and we're getting better, and I want those people to
Yeah,
help, that have those such great stories. Episode 40 would be awesome. You're
yeah.
here at our 20, and I feel like that's a big number for me. And
I would be honored.
yeah, we
So,
definitely want to
cheers.
bring people back in, especially people with you can't get it all in one
Mm-mm,
one setting,
mm-mm.
and that's the problem too. We talking a little bit about politics. You can't get it all in one 3-hour setting. And you're sitting there trying to understand what somebody's talking about in 30 seconds.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely would love to do that. But back to the family. Does she have her own thing? Is she, I like I said, me and Shelby can't necessarily work side by
Sure.
side. I've encouraged her to help
Right.
here more
Yeah.
because I'm not going to be as hands on as far as the studio part. But
Sure.
yeah, do you guys work together on anything?
Yeah, so we've worked together, collaboration on marketing and different things, and she freelances some of that stuff. Her big thing is she takes care of me.
Yeah,
I'm we're all men, right? We're all man child in some way. Like,
yeah,
let one of us get a cold and see how we act, right?
yeah.
That's just the plain, unfortunate truth about it. But yeah, she's an amazing person, good woman, my biggest cheerleader.
Yeah.
And I love her to pieces. So, yeah.
Yeah, you need that, you gotta have that support. It's always nice at the end of the day when you go home and all the
Hmm.
mistakes you've made and people you pissed off and you got somebody there that's like, "Yeah, you screwed up pretty
Hmm.
big, right?" But,
She makes me
still
grow as a
here.
human.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not the easiest person at
No,
all.
I understand that. I'm not
We all
easy.
have battle scars, right?
Yeah.
And so it's not always easy to be a high functioning ADD entrepreneur.
Yeah. I
So,
understand that. I actually yeah, I've actually was, diagnosed with
yeah,
it. And I'm not really good about explaining myself. I
correct.
don't wanna
Yeah,
explain everything.
yeah,
There was a time, Tristan was having issues with his car, middle of hot in the parking lot. I'm working on it, and he had no idea, and I'm just wanting to get it done. He's like, "What are you doing? Why are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, I can get this done a lot faster if I don't have to explain why
right.
I'm doing what I'm doing," and I'm not really good. I'm trying to be better at that too. I really do want to have feedback from people. I want to know because I've realized that I don't know everything by no means, and there's
Mhm.
better ways, easier ways. I try to accept change a little more, So we'll see how that goes.
I think it's an interesting time in the world where, I think men can be more vulnerable. We can talk about our feelings. You and I, Gen Xers, we didn't grow up talking. You got hurt. You just got hurt. That was it.
Suck it up.
Suck it up. Go back to work. Do what you need to do. And it's just an interesting time where we can talk about things that affect us, that bother us, and I think you need to have somebody to be able to allow you to talk about
Right.
that.
Mm.
And not everybody will listen to you or give you the feedback you need and make it okay to be a little bit vulnerable and talk about it. And again, I think everybody has an archetype, and um, my archetype does not necessarily allow me to be that vulnerable some days.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And that again goes back to our generation. We don't, you know, we got mental health issues and things like that. And I have a therapist come on. She's been on twice. She's a really good friend of mine from Bowling Green, actually.
oh yeah,
She
I
lived
saw
here
her.
and moved. Yeah. Yeah. I always tell her, I said, this is my free session, because she
My
comes
friend,
in. My first one actually got into some pretty deep stuff and my personal life. And it, I'm kind of glad it was one of the first ones because there
yeah,
was a lot of personal stuff there. And then the second one, we really get into some interesting things. That's something that our generation just never dealt with. No boys don't cry. Suck it up. I remember I when my family talk about going to the doctor or going to the hospital. I'm like, oh, what? What do you mean? And I had to really watch because I don't have a lot of sympathy there
yeah,
because I'm not used to. I remember my dad. I had a splinter in my leg. He'd dig it out with a pocket knife,
yeah,
and tape it up with some duct
yeah,
tape. So it's a
yeah.
different world, but maybe doesn't mean it was right.
Doesn't mean it
Doesn't
was
mean it was right.
better.
Yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah.
there's a lot of things that we did in our, in previous generations, from the civil rights on,
Yeah,
different stuff
right.
that our country has, failed,
Yeah,
or different generations have failed on. And I think for us, well, what Gen Xers, we were latchkey kids. We
yeah,
taught ourselves how to cook. We ran our own house.
sure. I
You
moved
know,
out when I was
the
14.
the destruction of the nuclear family. That's a whole different topic,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
But
You know,
yeah, we we don't talk about our
no.
feelings, men in general.
On
Or
that point, do you ever find yourself when you do open up about something, do you have to justify it first? Like, I think I
yes,
might even have done it earlier. I'll start off with justifying all my masculine points. Well,
right,
I've been in a cage, I used to do
yeah,
this,
yeah,
I did this, and
yeah,
then I'll be able to say
yeah,
something that I'm vulnerable about, just but I had to back it up. You know what I
sure,
mean?
yeah,
I notice that about myself a lot when I'm
yeah.
talking to people.
Certain sects of our society will call it toxic masculinity.
Yeah,
Some people will call it just being a guy. My thing is, look, as men, we want to build things, and we want validation.
sure.
We want to be validated for
Yeah.
what we did.
Yeah.
Um,
And at the end
that's
of the day, there's hundreds, if not thousands of years of evolution that put us
for
where
sure.
I was talking to someone earlier
Yeah,
about that. They talk about traditions and why how these traditions started and how it repressed either women or maybe a person of color or what. But then you have people in the modern now that they choose. This is what this even as that person they choose to live this certain way. So is it any different to judge that person and then that person to judge you.
yeah. I think
I see that a
that's
lot.
yeah. I think that deal with your own house.
Yeah, yeah. If
Don't
somebody is okay, nobody's getting hurt, and if
right.
people this is how they choose to live.
Sure. Yeah.
A lot of like traditional with a woman who I have a friend, and she's said many times she's been in relationships and she's 30 something, and she's like she just wants somebody to be a she wants to be a wife and she wants to stay home. And I
She
mean, I'm
likes
even hesitant to say
traditional
this because
roles.
this
Yeah.
is almost a bad word, but yeah, she just wants that traditional word and want to raise a
Why
family.
is that a
I
bad
don't
word,
know,
Joe?
and
Why is
it's
that? Why is
uh,
traditional roles a bad thing?
I don't know
I don't believe it
because they
is.
don't want that person to judge them for the
Right.
life that if you want to go out and a woman have a career,
Yeah.
that's their choice, and I'm not going to
Sure.
judge them. But
Yeah.
in the same respect, if somebody doesn't want that,
Correct.
let's be fair about it.
I think society as a whole would be happier if they just turned inward and figured out what they love.
Yeah,
If you want a traditional role relationship, then, and when I say traditional role, the woman stay at home, that's your traditional role,
if she
and
yeah
keep the house and then the man go out and earn, fine. If you want to go out, to your point, and look, I employ a lot of females. They are badasses. They multitask better than men.
Yes.
They do a lot of things better than men. But at the end of the day, agree to disagree. Men have built the world, and there are jobs that men do that women don't excel in, and there are jobs that women excel in that men don't excel in. But I feel like you find your happiness, whatever that is, and that's what you do.
Sure. And you find someone like-minded.
Yeah,
You're not going to
that's what
force it.
makes it.
You're not forcing it on anyone.
That's what makes America
Yes.
great.
Right.
You can be whatever the hell you
Yeah.
want to be in America,
Yeah.
and and I'm not going to judge you.
No.
You know, gay, straight. You could want to do whatever you want to do, and that's fine with me. But in my house, I want to do this, and
Yeah.
I get to choose that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Quid pro quo or whatever. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Hmm. Um, all right. So, family trips. Does you have two daughters, right?
I do. I have two daughters,
Yeah.
Caitlin and Kinley.
Yeah.
My youngest is actually getting married in November, so and that is the last child I will ever have.
Mm,
Unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know. You know, I'm kind of 53.
yeah.
I don't know that I could be a father.
I joke
Um,
because my kids are so separated, and then people I say I have an 8-year-old, and then I'll say, yeah, I'm gonna wait 10 more years to have another one. Man, I don't
right.
think I could pull it off.
Yeah,
I love Enoch, and we have
sure.
a really close relationship between him and I. But that first months, 6 months was really hard. A lot
Yeah,
harder than was when I was younger.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah. Well, you said he loved fishing,
he
so
loves fishing,
um,
he's like his brother and his sister. He's a thinker too. He
yeah,
has a certain amount. The thing about him though is he's got that on drive, entrepreneurial drive too. On top of that, so he could be a little dangerous.
that's
I
cool.
think in the future,
Could either be a felon or a CEO,
maybe
or
both.
maybe both.
Yeah, for sure he'll be taking care of his older brother and sister. I
That's
have a
good.
feeling, employing them maybe,
Yeah.
but
Well, we talking about fishing earlier. You've never been deep sea fishing.
no. And I have his grandfather. They go to the lake every weekend, and
Yeah.
they've talked to trying to get them to go to Florida. He's a concrete worker, and because they never, I would love to go deep sea fishing. That's something I would see.
Here's what I love about deep sea fishing. I obviously it's a rich man's sport.
Yeah,
It really is.
yeah.
But you can hire people to do it. And I got to it very late in life. I've freshwater fished, bass fished, bluegill fished, throughout my life. I mean, I grew up in Alaska. I've got one of my earliest pictures of my brother, which we haven't really talked about. My only brother died in a car wreck. Um, him and I have a pic. There's a picture on my wall of him and I um, fishing in Alaska. So freshwater fishing has been kind of part of my life
Hmm.
forever. Um, all my most prevalent stepdad in my life, Gary, that was his father, um, would go camping and hunting and fishing all the time. Anyway, so once I got later in life, I had somebody else invited me on a private charter to go fishing. They took care of it and they paid for it because I damn sure couldn't. Um, and this was probably in my late 20s, early 30s, maybe by the time I got to do this. And man, was it an experience.
Mm.
You go out in the water and you leave land and you don't see land.
Sea land. Yeah.
And it is a different feeling knowing you are on your own. If shit goes down, you better handle yourself,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so anyway, I got kind of into it, and I took some different groups of employees, um, and or 1099 people that subcontractors that work for me, and I found out it is one of the most amazing social experiments you could ever do.
Hmm.
You find out who that person is pretty quickly out on a boat, 40 miles out to sea. Are they going to be scared to death? Are they going to quit? Are they going to help? Are they going to be a team member? It's just interesting.
Yeah.
And you get out there and, some of these big fish, you saw the picture that's on your
Yeah.
promo. That's a 275-pound yellow tuna
Yeah.
out in the Gulf of Mexico, about an hour and a half south of New Orleans.
So I'm gonna have to. How the hell are you picking it up like that? Over your top of you got it cleared your head. 275
Yeah.
pounds. That seems like that would be a
It's a
challenge in
large fish.
itself. Yeah.
So we go out. Let's just tell you. So I've
Yeah.
got this great captain down there. I try to go every year. I didn't get to go this year, but last 3 years I've gotten to go. And we're going to go next year. But You go out. This is an amazing captain. He's in his early 30s. Talking about a go getter.
Yeah.
He's in his early 30s. Just got married. Him and his wife have this amazing business down there. He is the number one sword fisherman in the Gulf of America.
Hmm.
That's what it's called now, right? Gulf of America.
Yeah,
Um,
there's some people out there just figure it out, right?
yeah,
They know what
yeah.
they get a
And
perfect job. He probably
he
loves it.
he loves it. He
Yeah.
hunts in the winter, fishes all summer. His wife is in on it too. She's an amazing young lady. And I gave him a couple of business tips. Hey, if I were you,
Yeah.
not that I am, I would build a couple of floating cabins basically on this marina that you kind of run. And I would get them coming and going. I would get them a place to stay. I would feed them, charge them for the food, for the lodging, and then I would take them out to fish. So that's what they've done, and they've made an amazing business with it. But he catches on average, I think last count over 200 swordfish a year.
Damn.
Um, and it's a very deep sea fish, 1,000 feet deep. You got to get on these deep shelves out
Mhm.
in the Gulf to get it. Um, and the name of his charter, I'll throw it out there. Triple Tail Charters, the guy's amazing.
Yeah, we'll put it on the
Yeah,
description. Yeah.
great guy to work with. But anyway, so we go out and we leave about 5 a.m. before the sun comes up. And you kind of, again, it's a good social experiment. You get to know who's going to be up, who's going to be ready.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Are you excited to go? Are you a late sleeper? All those things. You get to know people pretty well. You get on this boat. It takes about an hour and a half to get um, out of the canals, out into deep water, and then you start trolling for these tuna, and you got to find the the school, and then you find them. That day, the picture you showed was 2 years ago. We got out on the fish about 10 a.m. By 11 a.m., we caught three of them at 270 plus pounds, had three of them on the boat. We were back at the dock taking shots of tequila, celebrating our day by noon.
Wow.
And then you got fresh tuna. We
Yeah.
cryopacked it. I'm a big proponent of kill what you eat.
Yeah.
I like fresh produce, fresh, proteins, and so we dressed it. We put it in a cooler. We cryovac it, and I took it back home, and I had fresh tuna
For
20 different
ever.
ways for the next year. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Smoked tuna, kind of like Forrest Gump, right? Smoked tuna,
Yeah.
pickled tuna,
Right.
tuna steak, tuna fricasseed, tuna
Yeah.
this, tuna that. But um, yeah, amazing charter, amazing company down there. But you can't do it by yourself. It's a team effort.
Yeah.
I can't land that fish by myself.
Yeah.
But you hook the fish because the captain's amazing. He hooks it, he gets you in position and, does all those things. And then you reel it until your arm feels like it's getting ready to fall off and you don't think you can go anymore. And then you go, who's next? And then the next guy comes in, he reels it for
Yeah.
another 20 minutes. And then that fish takes off and runs another 500 feet. And then you're like, I'm out. Who's next? And then who's
It's a
next? And who's next?
rotation. Yeah.
And it's a rotation. And you go until the lactic acid in your bicep fills up so much that you can't feel your arm.
Yeah.
And so that's a challenge.
Yeah.
And you might have a foot and a half, 2 foot swells that day, and the boat's bouncing here and there, and everything's chaotic, and you're yelling and screaming, and the captain's running up to look at the radar, and he's running back down to untangle the line, and he's doing this and he's doing that, and your personality is forged in that fire. And
Yeah.
I think it has a lot to I think it mimics life in general, right?
Yeah.
You don't know what's coming next. You don't know. You're scared, you're excited, you're tired, you're hungry, you're sunburnt, you're this, you're that. And that picture is the culmination of that.
And that is when you're done, you're like, that was one of the greatest things I ever did.
100%.
Yeah. That
Well,
challenge.
and it
Yeah.
could be not for you, and that's fine
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But damn, I love it.
Yeah. Sounds exciting. I tend to thrive in tense situations, like things happening, and you have to respond quickly.
Yep.
I follow I wish I'd have joined the military when I was younger. I really think I would have excelled, but sometimes you just can't question. You have to make a decision and go. And you
Yep.
might find out later that wasn't the best decision, but
Sure.
no decision can be worse. So
Paralyzing.
yeah. So
Yeah.
there's those
I
certain
think that's
people
where a
out.
lot of people fail in business. It mimics life, right? I feel like you'll get stuck. Here's what my business acumen is. Okay, what's the worst case scenario? What's the best case scenario? Let me use all the information I got, but I got to make a decision now. within an orderly time, and I might
Mhm.
have a 2-day time limit. I might have a 2-hour time limit. It doesn't matter, but make the best decision. And if it's the wrong decision, you have to be able to be humble enough to look in the mirror, pivot, and go the other direction.
Yeah.
And I think that's important with business.
That's like fighting. I wish that I'd gotten into a different sport because fighting is you get up, you go in, you walk in the cage, and whatever happens is 100% on you.
Yeah,
Know what I mean? You got coaches and stuff like that, but
sure.
it's not like football.
No,
Oh, you threw the ball just a little,
no,
you only can blame yourself. And so that's what,
yeah,
owning a business at the end of the
yeah,
day. Yeah, you got people that might let you down, but you are the one that has to take responsibility
yeah,
for pretty much all that. It's
yeah,
hard to do too, because seems like it's been harder recently. I've got a lot of subcontractors that are doing stuff for me, and I'm having to tell my clients it's not done because of this, and so then
yeah. They don't care.
they don't care.
No,
That's the
they
thing.
contracted with you.
Yeah, and I think that's
Yeah,
another mindset is most people don't care. You can sit there and give them the sad stories, the whys and the wits. They don't care. They
and
don't.
that's why business is the ultimate game, right?
Yeah,
That's it's the ultimate game in my mind.
yeah,
It's you walk in. One man walks into an arena, and he goes to fight daily battles that we all fight, and it's commerce and this and that. But it's all on you.
yeah,
You can completely bankrupt yourself,
yeah.
right? Which is scary.
Yes,
Or you can excel beyond your wildest
yeah,
dreams.
yeah,
And that, it's a good segue. And then that's why I think I fell in love with poker over the last couple of years.
yeah. We haven't
Very
really talked
similar,
much
very
about
similar
poker.
to that.
Yeah,
You got your chips that could be your
their ammunition.
ammunition,
Yeah,
right? And you're reading people and you're trying to make the best decision you can make. And one false move means complete obliteration in the game. And um, yeah, that's why I've really fell in love with poker for a lot of reasons, but I think it's very similar to business in that way.
yeah. The poker scene in this area, I've played all over,
Yeah,
everywhere, and the poker scene in this area has some of the strongest players I've seen anywhere. Some of them,
very
and
strong.
it's a real because the boat. Well, we still call it the boat, but
Yeah,
Harrah's they had that game out on the boat that actually went out, and there's so many people started there, and I know all my people that I seen, the ones that I grew up watching, Butch Walden and all those guys. I don't know if you know Butch, but he's an old poker player here, and this town has some of the strongest players. And I think though that the poker game for me, when I realized that mentally controlling, if I could control my mental capacity, because you can play poker exactly right. I can read you. I can know how you play. I can put you on a set of card hands. I can have the hand that I have, and I can play it the way I'm supposed to. I can bet it properly, and at the end of the day, I could still lose. And
yes,
yeah, with a really good hand, then somebody with a really starting bad hand could win.
right,
And at the end of that, you then have to be able to pick yourself back up, and when that similar hand hits again, play it right again. Knowing that I lost so much because I bet this much to push him
right,
out, and he wouldn't go out. But
right.
you got it. That was the thing that helped me the most in poker.
Yeah,
But before we call it a day, I want to hear because I haven't played all over, but I've never played in Vegas, and I've
yeah,
of course never played at the World Series. Is
sure.
that's got to be unbelievable?
It is a different animal. To your point, we've got some of the most amazing poker players in a concentrated area. For Paducah to be so small,
Yeah.
some great talent here. So I learned, during COVID, I had learned poker a long time ago, but just penny ante poker, nothing real serious. COVID hit, and I got invited to a couple home games. People were getting together, and we were all kind of bored during that time, and I
Yeah.
really dove into it. So I've only been playing competitive poker for I'd say 4 years tops, maybe 3.5 years. Not that long,
Hmm.
not near as long probably as you. But I really dove in head first. And I played my first tournament in 2022, 3 years ago, and I cashed in it. And what I love about poker is for a lot of the same reasons to your point, it's self-realization. You learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about your temperament, your patience, um, how adverse to risk or how um, advantaged you are. How much, again, I thrive in situations that I'm uncomfortable in. I'm comfortable being uncomfortable. So, the Vegas poker scene, the WSOP was introduced to me by a close friend of mine. that was very seasoned in playing poker out there. So this year was my third year going out there, and playing. And Man, those guys are damn good.
Yeah.
But I've got some great stories. My advantage, I think, at the poker table, we talked about generationally, Gen Zers versus Gen Xers and Boomers, and this, that, and the other. Um, my conversation game and looking at you and the inflections in my voice and how I control a table is completely different than
Any
uh,
generation.
any generation.
Yeah, they all play differently.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so my how I get to know you is I think superior. That's my strength.
Yeah.
How I talk to you, the information I can get from you, the information I get from you in a poker game out in Vegas is valuable because it's going to lead me to how you're going to react in certain situations,
Yeah.
right? And then the beautiful part about it that people don't get enough is math, right?
Yeah.
Math is a beautiful thing. Pot odds,
Yeah.
expected EV, how many outs I have with how many cards to come. All those things are
You
just it's a science, and it's beautiful, and it's scary. It's kind of like fishing, right?
Yeah.
So it's scary, it's unknown. There's things you can't control. There's a lot you can control.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Vegas is a different animal, and poker is a different thing in life that a lot of people don't get to experience. And I've got some great stories that came out of Vegas. So
Yeah. Did you play? I guess I'm sure you played some cash there as well.
I did one of my funnest,
And
most
before we go,
yeah,
so that everybody knows what I mean when I say cash games, tournament games are basically just for those people that don't know what we're talking about. A cash game, you sit down, you put a certain amount of money cash in that you're willing to bet, and we'll
right.
see. Uh, Tournament games, you go in, you buy in, everyone pays the same amount. They get a certain amount of chips that they use. That's why people misunderstand the tournaments sometimes because they see these guys betting, 300,000 chips. Yeah, but that's not what they put
It's
in.
not real
Yeah, yeah, it's
dollars.
not real.
Yeah,
It's to
yeah,
give them a lot of playtime.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Completely different way you
yeah,
play poker.
yeah.
There's two different ways. Cash game is completely different than a tournament. And a lot of people don't realize, like I've told my loved ones and family members, they're like, "Well, man, you got so close. I wish you would have won." I go, "Well, I I cashed.
Hmm.
Um, when you enter a tournament in the WSOP, 85% of the people that play will not cash,
Yeah.
and you know that going in.
So it's a win and get the cash.
Cashing is a win.
Yeah,
If you win the damn thing, that's monumental. That's
yeah,
crazy. That's could be life changing money. I
yeah.
mean,
And that,
Michael Mizrachi won this year. I played with him on day one, and then got with him on the lunch line. But great pro player. Won a little over $10 million. Taxman got a good chunk of that.
yeah,
But he's put in so many hours, so many different games. He Michael Mizrachi is what poker needed at this time
yeah,
because so many poker players nowadays are robots. They're the hoodie, the shades, they don't talk, they decipher the information, they spit out an algorithm, and then they go with it.
hmm,
He talks, he's engaging. It's not about all math for him. It's about feel, and it's a sweet art. But yeah, I played some cash out there. Played some tournaments. Did fairly well in tournaments this year. Not great. Didn't win a tournament, but I made some money. Um, Gotten a good cash game with one of the icons of our in poker, Chris Moneymaker.
yeah.
Got to play a good cash game with him. Got in a hand with him with Ace 10. We get it all in before the flop. Um, Chris is such a good player. He had aces,
Wow.
and I have Ace 10. He goes, he says, "You want to run it once or twice?" I said, "Well, Chris, you got me, Dommy. Let's run it once. Damned if 10-10 doesn't come on the flop." So I beat him in that hand. That's a great story. I mean,
Hmm.
just having a dinner with some of those guys, the brotherhood that goes along with, I call it summer camp out there. Blessed enough to get away for a little bit of time to go play
Hmm.
poker, which is a kid's game, but
Yeah. Well,
um, you know,
some people compared poker to chess, and it's like people they'll say it's like playing chess, but covering up some of the pieces on the board.
it is.
Because there's so many
Yep,
unknowns.
yep,
And the poker people, the
yep,
guys are different. You can go after a dude. I mean, hammer him. He'll
yeah,
be pissed, but you're
yes,
still friends.
yeah,
I mean, it's weird how
yeah.
that works. There's some of them out there though you kind of hold a little grudge against, but
Sure.
um,
Mentally, you can mess with somebody all day long and get them on what we call tilt.
yeah, and that's the mental issue.
For those of you that don't know, being on tilt is just getting so beside yourself emotionally that you can't think straight
Mm.
and do the
Play properly.
play properly in the game. And that's part of the mental warfare that poker
Yeah,
is. You can nudge them, you can talk to them, you can bet certain ways, you can do certain things that get that guy. And some people emotionally are easily exploitable, and some people aren't.
yeah.
Um,
I
so
know. I play. Everybody used to play a little game. It was called Seven Deuce. Seven Deuce offsuit's the worst hand in poker, and we would play Seven Deuce. So if you were able to win with the Seven Deuce and actually bet through, you would get everybody had to pay you $10 or something.
sure, sure.
So I got that. We started playing. Did pretty well at it to the point I even tattooed it on my arm. But one of those things about tilt is winning with the Seven Deuce, or even worse, bluffing with the Seven Deuce and turning it over, which is a no-no for most poker players. You don't want to show your hand because then they can get a read on you. But in that situation, you can it's almost like you're rubbing it in their
Yeah,
face, and they get some upset.
and they can lose everything.
Yeah, they go nuts.
Nuts,
They'll
lose their mind.
rebuy and
Along with, well, there's a famous quote: "They lose their whole bankroll along with their mind
yeah,
when
exactly.
you get
Yeah.
them off like that."
I've been on tilt a few times. I can't say that I haven't. I mean, we all have. I can remember walking out of a casino going, "Oh my God, what did I just do?" You know
Hmm.
what I mean?
Hmm.
Butch Walden, I talked to him about him a lot. He doesn't play much anymore because he just health issues,
Sure,
but he was a classic at that. He would always chase flushes. A flush is five cards all one suit. Pretty good hand, but he would chase them, and chasing a flush would mean there's an opportunity for you to hit a flush if you continue in the game. Those other
sure.
cards turning over, and he would hit it, and then the guy would be all pissed off. Why are you chasing flush? He'd pull his money in, stack it, and then the very next hand would come around, and he would look at his cards. Shit, I can't catch nothing and throw it in. And that guy over there was just, and then he'd start cussing him
Uh,
and saying all stuff. And he'd look at him real weird. No, I don't like lemonade.
uh,
He was just
you
one of
gotta
the
love
best.
those old timers, man.
Yeah,
Those
those
guys
guys
mentally can just
tear you up.
tear you up, control your emotions. And that's poker. So, like in life, right? If you are easily controlled by other people, you probably won't succeed.
Yeah.
Poker's the same damn
Poker's the
way.
same way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
I've had more contacts through poker than anything
Yeah.
good contacts, business, every kind of contact.
Poker is a different thing altogether. There's a whole society of poker players. We have our own language.
Yeah.
I had to learn a whole new
Yeah.
language, which is interesting. It's the the flop, the river, the turn.
Yeah.
And
Tilts,
I'm
all
nutted.
those
I'm
little,
this. I'm that. I mean, all these different things. I'm on tilt. It's kind of like the secret handshake society. That's kind of cool,
yeah,
right?
it is.
But it's full of super nerdy guys and super flamboyant people.
Yeah.
Personalities are,
Jocks
yeah,
to, yeah,
everything.
everything.
You've
To
got some of the, I mean, look, I was
grandmothers.
just in Vegas and past Bobby's room. If you know where Bobby's room
Yeah,
is, it's in Bellagio. It's one of the most famous rooms in the
mhm.
world, poker rooms. And LeBron James and group is in there playing. Couldn't
Wow.
get close to it, and they ain't letting you in that game. It's
No.
kind of like a secret, again,
Yeah.
secret handshake. You got to get in that game first of all. Then you got to hold your own. Then, hey, I got to take your money while I'm looking at you smiling and got to make you like it. And you're
Yeah,
going to invite me back next time.
exactly.
It's kind of a crazy,
It's a
crazy
weird
thing.
thing.
It is very
I
weird.
enjoy it.
Yeah.
I don't play as much as I do because I'm just business, but I got a lot of great friends, and there's always a game, and people, I know we're going kind of long, so
Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking I wanted to before we did close up. I wanted the people in this area have no idea. They have no idea how some of these games go. They just think it's a bunch of guys sitting around playing poker. They're used to the 50 cent buy,
Yeah,
50 cent.
no.
There is thousands and thousands of dollars going across poker tables in just about any night of the week.
Without saying too much, there's some places I've heard
Yeah. Yeah.
that $50,000 might be on the table.
Yeah. That's,
And these are people that you would never think have that kind of money.
no, you wouldn't.
That's their poker. Well, so poker players have what they call a bankroll.
Hmm.
Um, and your bankroll might be the accumulation of all the monies you've won over whatever particular time frame. And I know people that are farmers that work on a farm that are the most simple people in the world, have $100,000 bankroll for poker,
Yeah.
and they bring 25 of it to the game,
Yeah.
and you get 8 or 9 guys in a room, and it becomes that room in a lot of respects is what we call toxic masculinity, where
Yeah,
there's a lot of measuring of each other,
yeah.
and they're pulling out very large sums of money. Um,
That's
that's
where
crazy.
the the rounder or the the guy you get lucky to get in that game and you can't swing because they got a lot more bullets than you do,
Sure.
so your bullets have to be very
Yeah.
precise and chosen, but
Yeah.
you can really, because of that buildup, can really make some really good
Yeah.
money at those
Yeah.
games, but it's not easy and you got to be patient,
Very patient.
and it's hard to be patient when the
Yeah.
blinds are so high because you're in a high stakes game.
Yeah. What's even scarier is those same guys. Some of those games will be a 5-5 game. It'll never change.
Yeah,
Five.
but
We
it's
say
not.
5-5. It's a five. $5 ante and a $5 big blind.
Yeah,
So you're committing each round to putting $5 in or $10 in,
yeah,
depending on the. But those games quickly spiral out of control where some pots be six, eight,
yeah,
$10,000, which is huge. That's a
yeah.
huge amount of money.
Yeah,
Um,
for a
I
one
mean, there were
pot.
years in my life I never made that in a year.
Yeah, yeah.
You
It's
know,
it's crazy how much
so
money does go through there. Um, so what's the future got? I know we got a big vacation, but beyond that,
yeah, I got a family vacay going next week, which I can't wait to just see everybody and hug their necks and just
yeah,
see them smile, which
it's
is
weird.
it.
Family is weird, isn't it?
It is.
It's like you just love them and you don't even know
Yeah,
why. You don't even know why.
yeah,
Yeah,
chemistry, right?
yeah,
So that's next week, but yeah. So I'm reaching out. I'm doing some development things. I'm trying to, I want to leave this town, Paducah, better than I found it. And so I'm working on some things with the chamber and development. I'm in a unique position construction wise where I can add my expertise to making different parts of the city better. And I'm working on without saying too much right now. Again, business you got to be kind of quiet when you need to be quiet. Trying to develop the city to be better. Trying to bring some industry into town. Trying to do some things to leave it better than I found it. So
yeah,
look out for me. You'll know when you see it.
yeah. That's exciting. Paducah's always been kind of a tough town for business. It seemed like sometimes
Yeah,
they kind of
yeah.
work against it in some ways, but so anybody who can succeed is really.
I think he used to. I think we've got some new leadership. The old guard that were here,
Mhm,
I know there's some old Paducians that is a good old boys club for a long time,
mhm,
uh, and still is to some degree. But I feel like that we've got some leadership. George Bray's doing an amazing job here. I feel like, and the city manager is sharp and doing a great job, and the Chamber of Commerce has been nationally recognized. And we're getting some traction. There's some really smart people that are doing some amazing things with Western Kentucky. And I never really understood once I got here why it hasn't taken off. I mean, we've got the riverways, we've
yeah,
got a highway that runs through it. It's rich in agriculture, it's rich in history. It's got a lot of positive things going for it. So I really feel like it's going to take off sooner than later.
okay.
All right.
So, yeah, so this will be our record.
Yeah.
We set the record today, and it's easy
Oh,
talking to you.
this is the longest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think
Wow.
we've ever went past 3 hours.
Well, I kind of alluded to it. I said, I can talk. I
Yeah.
mean, and I can tell stories, and so
Well, you're easy to talk to. We
yeah,
have a lot of similarities in how we approach life, so that made it easy. But so here's some of those traditional questions that I always ask, that most
sure.
podcasters ask. Are you happy?
Ah, that's a great question. Am I happy? I think I am.
Yeah.
I think I could be happier, but I think most of that is to my own detriment, right? I think entrepreneurs we put so much pressure on ourselves that the more I know, the less happy I've
Mhm,
become.
mhm.
But I think in my later years, I think I'm moving towards getting happier every day.
Yeah,
If that helps.
that is,
Is that an answer?
that is a good answer. It's a great
Yeah,
answer because I can relate to it. Um, because I wonder where that is for me. I'm
yeah,
hoping that I'm not super far
yeah.
behind because I really am ready.
I think when you get stagnant, you get unhappy.
Yeah,
And I think we have to challenge ourselves. And part of some of the stuff I love to do, the bourbon, the fishing, the poker, it's about getting out of my comfort zone to make me happy.
yeah. Well, I see also like what you're saying. So it's sort of like when your floor becomes your ceiling, or am I saying that correct? Yeah, where your floor becomes your ceiling. you grow, and 5 years
Yeah.
ago, $3,000-4,000 was a big amount of money. Now it's
Still
not.
a lot for me.
Well, it is, but
Yeah.
in not necessarily for me, but in business,
Yeah.
doing business
Sure.
with 4 or 5 thousand is kind of
Right.
hard. Um, Yet I'm still, sometimes you're still at that, even though we were 4 or 5 thousand here, and you're like, how in the hell did I just
Mhm.
make $60,000 in a
Mhm.
month, and we're still here?
Yep.
Yeah, and then you start seeing the bigger picture. You
Yeah.
start seeing what's really going on in the world. You're like, "Oh, wow, it's much bigger than I realized."
The
So
world's huge.
yeah, yeah,
World's
that
huge.
does make it hard on you. When you get to a certain success level, and you're like, "Oh, wow, I'm not even close." You always got to go back to what have I done? I
Yeah.
think, and not always compare to everyone else.
The funniest thing, and to are you happy? I feel like I am who I've always been. I am the same person.
Yeah,
I really feel that way. I feel like I'm just as down to earth as I've always been. I feel like I'm as simple as I've always been. People will say I'm bougie or this, that, and other because I've learned to like some of the finer things in life: bourbon, wine, travels, etc. No, that's my hard work and dedication has allowed me to do those things, and some of those things make me happier every day.
yeah, I'm
Right?
all for it, man. So many times, especially our generation, the generation before, 500,000, 600,000, a million, 2 million in the bank, still don't do anything. Same thing every day
Yeah.
of their life until they die. I'm like, I just would hate to live that life.
No, I don't
I
want
want to
the.
enjoy some of it.
Yeah.
I want to be responsible,
Yeah.
but I want to enjoy
Yeah.
some life
You've
too.
got to
I
be
want to
responsible,
experience. I
but
want to see
I
some
don't
things.
want things. I
Yeah,
want experiences.
me too. Me
You know
too.
what I mean? That's
Absolutely.
what I want out of
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
You just can't take it with you.
Well, on that note, what do you think the meaning of life is?
The meaning of life is relationships and leaving it better than you found it. I think that's for me.
Yeah, I
That's my
agree.
meaning.
Yeah. Yeah, that connections with
Yeah.
people. Yeah. I think that's
Yeah.
what we have to have.
Yeah. We're only here for this long.
Yeah. Not here for a
So
long time.
yeah.
Yeah.
But we're not here for a long time, but we're here for a good time,
Yep, yep,
right?
right.
And some bad choices we've made in that theory, but at the same time, we got stories, man. I've got a ton.
Yeah, well,
So
when I was talking about Tristan the other day, and I told him, and I don't think I ever told him that I tell people this about him. He's a weird dude. He's got some weird things he likes to do, and some of those are not really weird. It's just I'm weird and I don't
yeah,
understand.
sure.
But he's odd. He's got his ways, and his mind is generally in some book, So but I tell people, if I were to be able to change all the things that drive me nuts about him, but I would lose one thing that I'm proud of. There's no way I would ever do that. And that's what, to that point is those relationships that we have with people. That's really what makes us different. And to be able to understand that.
Yeah.
But anyhow, Mike, this has been one of the best so far.
Awesome.
Yeah. Now,
Thanks for
what
having me.
you're the lady you're in a relationship? What's her name?
Stacy.
Stacy.
Yep.
Yeah, she said it was going to be one of the best. So
Uh,
you can tell her yeah, I think it's
she's
going to be.
she's like I said, one of my biggest cheerleaders.
Yeah,
She's very much looking forward to seeing this. She's championed me for a long time and said I've got a story that people need to hear.
yeah,
And you've heard a little bit of it today. There's so many more things, facets.
yeah.
I think that's what makes people who
I
they
think
are. So,
I hope that one day, not too far away, maybe we can do it again.
well,
I think we
absolutely.
get so much more that was left unsaid.
Anytime you want me on, I'd be honored and
Yeah,
happy to do it.
well, definitely. Well, I will stay in touch and make sure that happens soon. When I knew you had a lot of story, but when I seen that, I'm like, geez, man, this guy has been all over.
Yeah,
So lots going on there.
appreciate it.
You got a movie in there somewhere. Yeah,
Yeah, maybe not.
yeah, maybe. I think
Yeah,
so.
that's that
Um,
humble streak, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I'm humble, but I can guarantee you, I have a movie in me.
yeah, for sure,
Maybe a horror movie at some
for
points,
sure.
but yeah,
Maybe a Lifetime movie, huh?
yeah, yeah.
Maybe Netflix. I don't know.
Yeah, who
So,
knows?
yeah,
All right, cool.
awesome.
Well, I'm excited, man. We're
Yeah,
gonna get this thing put together pretty quickly. And have it ready this weekend. So
awesome.
it's gonna be exciting.
Thanks,
And
guys. Thanks for
yeah,
having me.
I really do appreciate
Yeah,
it. And good luck and enjoy your vacation. I wish I was going myself. So
ah, need
soon,
it.
soon.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks,
Have a
guys.
good day.
What exactly happened down there?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I talked to him and blah, blah, blah. He asked about you guys and da 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 da. More questions, blah, blah, blah.